97.3 ESPN, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Thursday, Eagles game day. Well, it's preseason game day, but it still counts. Remember, we didn't have any preseason action last year. We had nothing to prime us for the regular season last year. And considering all the changes in Philadelphia, tonight is going to be a first important step in that direction to get ready for the first year of the Nick Sirianni era. We got you covered for the next 4 hours right here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks for Bank of Seattle City. And we are live as always on YouTube and Twitter as well as Facebook. You can join the conversation as always on multiple platforms. You can shoot a message right to the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. You download the app from your Google App Store, Apple App Store, wherever your platform is. Take 97.3 ESPN wherever you go in the world for all your news from Phillies, Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, high school sports, and more. Listen to the show wherever you go as well. Also, we are keeping you updated on the Phillies. Phillies currently lead 1-0 in the top of the fourth, even though Ranger Suarez legged out a base hit in the bottom of the last inning. He is still on the mound. Only 54 pitches for Rangers so far in the game, so we'll keep an eye on him as the Phillies try to snap their 2-game losing streak in the afternoon game. We'll talk more about the Phillies series coming up at 5 o'clock as well with Frank Klose, our Phillies insider for 97.3 ESPN. After the Phillies got you to the National League East lead, they come in today's game with 3 teams tied for the same number of losses in the National League East. You have the Phillies, the Braves, and the Mets, all with 55 losses. The Phillies and Braves 59 wins. Mets have 57 wins. So the Mets are a game behind both the Braves and the Phillies coming into action today. So we'll keep you updated on all things Phillies as well. Bryce Harper hit a home run to give them that 1-0 lead earlier in the game. As Ranger Suarez just struck out a future Hall of Famer and Albert Pujols, who is not happy with himself. Man, I think Pujols might just struck a little curse word on television there. Woohoo! How about them out? We also got to talk a lot of football today. Andy McNamara, my buddy from Sportsnet, covers the NFL as well as fantasy football. He will join us coming up at 3:20 today. Adam Caplan, football at 4. Of course, the Inside the Birds podcast. Adam joins the show every Thursday as we will get you even more ready for the games tonight as there are injuries impacting who will play and not play tonight. Don't forget, Andre Dillard, week to week with a sprained knee. Kavon Wallace, groin strain. Devonta Smith, MCL sprain. John Hightower, groin issue. Davion Taylor, calf. Jacoby Stevens, hamstring. Also, no Brandon Brooks or Isaac Seumalo expected to play tonight. So what does that all mean? Who will we see play tonight? Well, we're going to find out coming up at 4 o'clock on Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast with NFL insider Adam Caplan. Also, Keith Smith joins us each and every Thursday to talk NBA. Sixers at Summer League. Sixers offseason still going. There was a lot of chatter about Ben Simmons, a lot of chatter about Damian Lillard when he came back from the Olympics. And now all of a sudden, that chatter's died down a lot. So what does that mean? What do we read into that? What should we read into that? We will ask Keith Smith from Spotrac coming up at 2:40 today. So we got a busy show today, a lot of stuff to cover. And of course, you can join the conversation as always. As I mentioned, you can message us through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It comes right directly to the show. That's the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Of course, we are also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can follow 97.3 ESPN on YouTube and Twitter. And of course, as always, text board is there, 609-403-0973. as well. So you got a plethora of ways to get a hold of the show. As always, here on a Thursday edition, here on 97.3 ESPN. Again, the Phillies are on the top of the fourth. They lead 1-0 thanks to a Bryce Harper home run. So a little detail going on with that game to let you guys know as things update. But, with the Eagles back in action tonight, one of the things I'm looking forward to as we move forward, looking ahead, is I'm curious to find out how much do the starters play tonight? Because there's two things to keep in mind with tonight's game. Number one, because of the lack of depth they have at certain positions, right? There's no Brooks or Sayamalo tonight. So you're already going with your backups to the guard positions. We know that Dillard is injured, so your backup left tackle is injured. So how does Sirianni and company balance the starters in tonight's game? I'm looking around and I'm wondering, you got to keep those starting left tackles out there as long as Jalen Hurts is out there. Hopefully, the coaching staff doesn't, put Jalen Hurts in too many risky situations. But let's be realistic. If you are going to get the most out of the development of Jalen Hurts, you got to get him legitimate reps out there with his teammates. And I don't mean one series, a couple of plays. You got to make sure that if you're evaluating him in his development, you are evaluating him with as much continuity as possible. So you don't want to have Brett Toth out there at one of the tackle positions while he's out there. You don't want to have Luke Juriga out there instead of Jason Kelsey with him for an extended period of time, if at all. You need to make sure that in your evaluation of Jalen Hurts, because whether you are a Jalen Hurts person or not, you cannot properly evaluate him unless you are sure that what he is being sent out there with, to play around, at least has a resemblance of the starting unit. I don't want to see people complaining about Jalen Hurts if he throws a ball and the receiver drops it and say, well, he threw a bad ball. No, who was the receiver? Was it actually Rager and Fulgham and those guys? Or was it, Quez Watkins and Markin Michelle? Like, there's a huge difference. So tonight, I'm going to have to evaluate in tiers, basically, because it's not just going to be a completions versus incompletions thing. It can't be just a how many offensive plays they run. No, we need to see Jalen Hurts in with the starters for as long as possible so we can get a legitimate idea of what we're dealing with. Practice is cute and all, but the real stuff is tonight. People are coming to hit you. People are coming to take you down. People are coming for jobs tonight. That Steelers team already has one game under their belt in the preseason. So that guys have an idea of where they are at in the pecking order in Pittsburgh. They are very well aware of whose job is on the line, what they have to do to get a job tonight. This is going to be a very important game for them tonight. So you're not going to get some team that's running through the motions tonight. Pittsburgh always comes prepared. This is a Mike Tomlin team. This is a bunch of grinders going out there coming for you. So you got to put your best foot forward. And we're going to find out what Nick Sirianni's best foot forward is tonight. You can hear all the action right here on your home for Eagles football. 97.3 ESPN FM coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. We have spent a very long time in this area criticizing head coaches for legitimate and unlegitimate issues with their play calling, with their substitutions, with a lot of different things. And today is going to be the first time that we're going to find out what Nick Sirianni is made of. Because Nick Sirianni made a very interesting comment to the media. He told the media this week, well, there's not a lot of film on us out there. So how much are you really going to show everybody? How much are you really going to give other teams when it comes to tape, when it comes to evaluation? I'm curious to see what does happen. Because Nick Sirianni is going to have to learn on the job too. Everyone wants to point to a lot of different players, but to me, this season comes down to Nick Sirianni. One of the questions I've had about the training camp, Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. One of the things I have questions about training camp is this. When you look at the reports coming out of camp, how well the defense is playing, how the offense, all the quarterbacks have struggled at times, how they've been forced to hold the ball longer than they want to on multiple plays in training camp practices, in 11-on-11s and 7-on-7. Because the defense apparently is playing so well. So I want to know, is the defense playing well? Is the offense playing poorly? Or is it both? Because there's a lot of questions that we can draw from that, no matter what the answer to that question is. If the defense is playing that well and they come out and they play really good tonight, that's a huge positive, not just for the Eagles, but for the hiring of Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon was one of the most highly desired coaches out there in the market. There are people who believe that this guy is going to be a future head coach. And Jeffrey Lurie, the Eagles owner, wanted this guy. And the Eagles, among many teams, were all clamoring for his services. So we're going to find out, is he the real deal or not? Is this defense legit tonight? Because it's not just about how many points you give up. It's about how you execute the plays. One of the reasons why people liked, at least players did, I know a lot of fans didn't, liked Jim Schwartz's scheme was because it was simple. It was literally a go get the quarterback, not a lot of disguise, not a lot of manipulating of circumstances. It was just go downhill, pursue, and we'll hope that the corners and the safeties hold up. That was the whole plan. Now you have disguises. Now you have zone versus man versus mixing of different setups and systems. And, Gannon's not running a pure 4-3 defense or a 3-4. He's running a hybrid, he called it. So what does that look like? Is Jonathan Gannon legitimate? How much of what has happened in training camp applicable in game time? I want to know. I want to see this because I'm telling you, folks, I've heard too many training camp stories in my lifetime where the coach or a player is praised and picked up and everyone talks how great he is, and then the game happens and you're just let down. Remember back in the day, it was Mr. Lehigh, the great player at training camp, would go out there, have a monster couple weeks, and then he just fall flat on his face in a preseason game. Then he gets cut, and everyone's like, man, what happened to fill in the blank player? Nay Brown, Dietrich Gels. We all know those guys. Remember Paul Turner? Every Eagle fan wanted him to be the starting wide receiver, and then he couldn't stay in the NFL all of a sudden. So does Jonathan Gannon put up or shut up tonight, or does he prove why this team hired him? And on the flip side, how about Nick Sirianni? Great young head coach, focused on the fundamentals, one thing's done right, stops practice 2 weeks ago in the middle of practice to sit guys down and say, this is unacceptable. You bring in a guy like Shane Steichen, who's been an offensive coordinator in this league for years. You have two coaches in Sirianni and Steichen who come from very specific coaching backgrounds, which are both different than Doug Peterson and Chip Kelly backgrounds. So for the first time in 10 years, there's something completely different in this building. What does that all mean? Nick Sirianni's never been a head coach. He's never been a primary play caller. What does that look like tonight? What does the Nick Sirianni offense look like? Did they have trouble at practice because Jonathan Gannon's defense is that difficult? Or were they struggling in practice because what if Nick Sirianni's offense is not easy for the players to pick up? What if there's a problem for Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco, Nick Mullins to translate that into action? I'm not saying that is the case, but it's a question that has to be asked. We're going to find out tonight if Sirianni and company are legitimate. Are they struggling in practice? For what reason? We're going to find out what that reason is tonight. Because the Steelers' defense is something that you don't see a lot of in the NFL anymore. There's not as many pure 3-4 defenses being run anymore. There's not many teams that run a pure 4-3, a 3-4 like the Steelers do, with the 3 down linemen, the 4 linebackers, and then the 2 outside linebackers typically being a part of the third down, either pass rush or coverage. Even a team like New England, which is supposed to be a 3-4, it's more like a hybrid. You know, Belichick doesn't run a pure 3-4 or anything like that because Belichick just runs a defense based on his personnel. A lot of coaches nowadays run defenses that are kind of like a mix and match scheme. You know, Dan Quinn, when he got to Atlanta, he didn't run the exact same Seattle cover 2 defense. Sorry, cover 3 defense. He ran a hybrid of between a cover 2 and a cover 3. When you look at a team like Mike Zimmer in Minnesota, it's constructed like a 4-3 defense, just like Indianapolis is constructed like a 4-3 defense. But there's a lot of times that you look out there and you're thinking, is that a 4-6? Is that a all zone coverage defense? Or is that a zone blitz coming off the edge? And then you realize that when they switch at the line of scrimmage last minute, it's actually a drop zone with no blitz coming. There's so many things that teams do in the NFL now to mix things up. Mike Tomlin's defense has been pretty much a 3-4 defense that utilizes some Tampa 2 concepts. It's very straightforward, but it's very difficult to game plan against because there's not a lot of it in the league. So how does Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco, Nick Mullins handle that? Now, we know Flacco saw the Steelers defense for a long time, so I'm hoping that Flacco spent time with Nick and Jalen this week, explain to them what they can expect from a Mike Tomlin defense. But you can understand the defense as well and maybe not understand the offense very well. So there's a lot of variables that go into this. And I'm curious to find out. We are going to find out tonight what this era of Eagles football is going to look like. It's either going to be a beautiful thing or it's going to be an exasperating thing. And of course, all the action is tonight, 6:30 p.m. is the coverage starts here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Eagles, Steelers, first preseason game of the year. We'll be talking more about it throughout the show tonight. Football at 4 with Adam Caplan, NFL Insider, coming up at Football at 4 p.m. Also, Sportsnet's Andy McNamara joins us at 3:20. Phillies are in action. They are now up 2-0 after a base hit brought in a run down the bottom of the fourth. So we'll keep you updated on the Phillies. They try to break a 2-game losing streak. Frank Klose will join us coming up at 5 p.m. after the Phillies-Dodgers series is done tonight. And, of course, as always, we'd love to hear from you guys. We are live on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, and on YouTube and Twitter. We have messages to get to on the multiple platforms as well, places you can get a hold of the show. You tell me, what are you looking forward to in tonight's game? How excited are you for tonight's game? We always like to get your comments as well. Text board 609-403-0973. You can message the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Of course, you can download the app, get all the content on the Phillies, Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers, as well as local high school sports that you need, as well as listening to the show through the app wherever you go in the world. Sports Bash with Mike Gill, Game Night with Josh Hennig, The Locker Room with Billy Schwein, all that and more right there on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Of course, no game night tonight because of Eagles football. I'm filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Also, you can send messages as you watch on Twitter and YouTube and wherever else you're watching the show. Glad to have you guys on board the show. A lot of football talk, mixing in some Phillies. We'll get to it all throughout the show right here. Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN.
Turn it on. Leave it on. The Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC. Equal housing lender. Indeed Instant Match. Just sponsor a post and immediately receive a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Josh Hennig back here on the Sports Bash, affiliate from Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN Thursday edition. Eagles game day. Eagles first preseason game is tonight. Tell us what you're looking forward to, what your thoughts on the game tonight are. I gave you some of my thoughts to open the show here on 97.3 ESPN. Sports Bash being brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan is now open on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot. Visit them online at mattblattnissan.com. We will be getting into the Phillies as well throughout the day. Ronald Torreyes brought in your RBI to score Bryce Harper as the Phillies are now up 2-0 on the Dodgers. Definitely a rocky 2 games for the Phils. We'll be reviewing it all when the game is done tonight with Frank Klose from 97.3 ESPN.com. But, you know, with the Phillies playing in the afternoon, there's no conflict with the Eagles tonight, so that's a good thing. You don't have to pick and choose or bounce back and forth on your last button. You can just go straight to you can just go straight to the Eagles. You don't have to worry about anything else tonight. It's always a good thing. I know it's preseason, but just like over here, got a message from Brendan. Brendan says, "What up, Josh? I know it's preseason, but I would be lying if I didn't say I was pumped." Listen, man, I'm pumped too. Let's go. Eagles back on the field. We saw no preseason games last year. New coaching staff, new starting quarterback, brand new schemes, different players at skill positions. I want to see this team. I'm pumped too, man. I'm curious. I want to see it. I'm glad you're pumped as well, Brandon, because guess what? This team is going to have a lot of questions for a lot of us. We don't know what this team's going to look like. We don't know what this team can put out there yet. So until we see, Brandon, exactly what all the fuss is about, for lack of a better term, we don't know what to expect. Now, one of the things we do know is, so I got to bring up this story real quick. So you know how Nick Sirianni won't name his starting quarterback? And people are all up in arms about that. Well, Jags head coach Urban Meyer said he would not commit to Trevor Lawrence starting in the team's regular season opener against Houston. He went as far to say, according to reports coming out of Jacksonville, that the competition is open, assuring that both Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence would both see time with the first team offense in the preseason. And, of course, Lawrence and Minshew are splitting reps at practice. So, just a little context here. So, while Nick Sirianni won't announce a starter, but Jalen Hurts is getting every single rep of the first team like he is the starter. On the flip side, the number 1 overall pick is not getting every snap with the first team. He is not the prohibitive favorite. Myers is clearly creating a quarterback situation, a conundrum, a scandal, a conspiracy, whatever you want to call it down there with the Jags. I have no idea what he's doing. So the next time you guys want to complain about Nick Sirianni, just remember, Urban Meyer, national college football champion in his first NFL coaching job, is telling the media that he won't commit to Trevor Lawrence being the starter for the regular season opener. And that Minshew and Lawrence are splitting reps at training camp. So either Urban Meyer is creating a massive just smoke screen, Or you very may well have a situation down in Jacksonville. I mean, you already got Tim Tebow trying to win a spot as tight end on the roster. Lawrence and Minshew apparently are splitting reps down there. Remember they tried to hire a strength and conditioning coach who had a very, very disturbing history in terms of how he treated people. And Meyer said, oh, well, I didn't know all about all that. Like, what is going on with the Jags right now? I'm starting to wonder, is Urban Meyer going to be like the most of the former college coaches and just come to the NFL and just implode? When he was first hired, I thought, maybe Meyer can do it. His background is more of a CEO managerial type in football. At least he has coaching experience. Nick Sirianni doesn't have coaching experience as a head coach in the NFL, but Urban Meyer at least has head coach experience at the biggest college football programs in the country. So I thought, maybe Meyer can do something with this because of his background, because of his style of coaching. And now I'm listening to all the things come out of his mouth over the last few months. From the scandal when it came to hiring the strength and conditioning coach they had to fire, to signing Tebow, to now splitting reps between Minshew and Lawrence, who you drafted number 1 overall with the number 1 overall pick. This is not like Chicago where the Bears signed Andy Dalton to be the bridge quarterback, right? This is not a situation like Justin Herbert last year where Tyrod Taylor was the prohibitive veteran to hold down the fort until the young player could come in. Or Tua down in Miami where Tagovailoa and Fitzpatrick were together down there and Ryan Fitzpatrick was the veteran. No, Minshew and Lawrence are only a few years apart in age. The call say Gardner Minshew is a veteran is playing things pretty fast and loose. Minshew is 25 years old, and while he's played 23 NFL games, let's remind people that they drafted Trevor Lawrence number 1 overall. So if they thought so highly of Minshew, why did they draft Lawrence? Why didn't they just trade the pick? So while the Eagles are saying, we're not naming Hurts a starter, but he's getting every single rep of the first team, down in Jacksonville, Meyer's playing this strange game of, I don't know what he's doing. I have no idea what is going down in Jacksonville right now. I'm just glad it's not us. Because what if Jeffrey Lurie hired just another college coach instead of Sirianni? I mean, how much of a nightmare would that maybe be? Remember, Chip Kelly came in here and started out great and then fell apart, and the NFL caught up to him. College coaches like Steve Spurrier, Dennis Erickson, they had trouble in the NFL as well. Those college coaches. They didn't have a bunch of success in the NFL. Realistically, the only college coaches that have success in the NFL are, well, at least in recent years, is guys like Jimmy Johnson and Pete Carroll. The majority of college coaches over the last 30 years have all had problems. Butch Davis that was a mess. Nick Saban, people say he didn't get his quarterback. Well, could he run his system in the NFL? I don't know. Nick Saban may be the greatest college coach of all time, but he had troubles in Miami. We all remember the Bobby Petrino fiasco down in Atlanta. Remember, he just left in the middle of the night and took the Arkansas job. Bobby Petrino. Is anything more disastrous than to know that your coach is Bobby Petrino, knowing his background? So it's a good thing the Eagles didn't end up with that situation. Let's get one more message in here before we hit the break. Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Message comes in, says, if Jalen Hurts looks awful, any chance how we could pull off a move for Watson over the weekend? A trade would protect the Eagles in case Watson can't play this year. Listen, my position on Watson is I don't think any NFL team should trade for him. until his legal issues are sorted out. Watson's own lawyer has told the media that the Houston Police Department is investigating 10 criminal complaints against him, aside from the civil cases. And a couple of the women who are trying to push criminal charges against Deshaun Watson, according to reports, they're not part of the civil cases. So you potentially have 24 or 25 women who are all accusing Deshaun Watson of some serious improprieties. And, there's a lot of rated R details online that you can look up for yourself about things he's been accused of. But I'll tell you right now, if he is guilty of any of the things that he has done, as been described online by different reports, I don't want that guy on the Eagles. Neither should you. I mean, this dude literally is just looking for women to just do strange things with, man. And if these women did not agree to the things that he's being accused of, that's not a person you want leading your football team. There's a reason why the Texans aren't going to play him in the preseason. There's a reason why teams haven't traded for him, because he's got some issues. And I don't want that guy on my football team if he's got those kind of issues. Now, if Hurts looks awful, yes, you got to have some conversations about the quarterback situation. But I don't think Watson is the solution per se, because let's be realistic. Everyone is waiting for the next shoe to drop. And when that shoe drops, do you want him on your team? If Deshaun Watson goes out and plays a couple games and then gets pulled off the field because he has to go to trial, or he could go to jail, or whatever, and Howie Roseman traded for him, all of you would rip Howie for doing that. So that's my position. I think you stay away from Watson until all of his off-the-field issues are resolved. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Coming up next, we'll dabble into the NBA and the Sixers. There was a lot of chatter about Simmons and Lillard over the weekend through Monday and Tuesday. But all of a sudden on Thursday, everything's gone quiet. What does that mean? Keith Smith, NBA writer from Spotrac, will join us next right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And we are live on YouTube and Twitter. We can watch the show, join the conversation on all platforms. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles open the 2021 preseason tonight, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Link.
Roethlisberger again, look. He is hit, and football is fumbled. The Eagles have it.
Maryland Mike call all the action starting at 7:30 p.m. This is where the Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
On some models, excludes Corvette with DM financing, excludes price sale. See dealer for details. Have you seen what some dealers are now charging for new cars and used vehicles? It's outrageous. But at Bennett Chevrolet, you still pay what GM supplier employees pay for brand new Chevys. Plus, Bennett gives you all the rebates. That's not either or, you get both. And that can save you up to 25% off MSRP. And Bennett has 0% financing available to save you even more. Got a trade? Bennett's paying top dollar. And we mean top dollar. A minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum $7,000 for any old clunker you can tow to our lot. And if it's in good shape, we'll pay more. And we'll buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. And Bennett makes it so easy. No sales pressure, no negotiating, just pure joy. Because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So you can see why nobody beats Bennett Chevrolet. Nobody. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 97.3 ESPN or visit our website, 973ESPN.com.
Josh Hennig back here on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live as always on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Of course, this hour of Sports Bash being brought to you by JCPenney. It's back to school season, and the smart time to shop is now. Shop doorbusters all day long today through Sunday while they last. Weekdays are back in style at JCPenney. Keep the messages coming in. Of course, you can message the show right to the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks First Bank of Seattle City. Also, text board is open as well, 609-403-0973. And you can message the show through the YouTube show. But joining us right now to get more into the NBA, Sixers offseason right now, Keith Smith, Spotrac, joins us right now on 97.3 ESPN. Keith, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you jumping on. And I wanted to start off with this. This is the question I asked a little bit earlier in the show, and I got to ask you here. So everything's gone quiet all of a sudden. You know, all of the hubbub about Ben Simmons, about Damian Lillard. It felt like that was going on for days, and all of a sudden, everything's just gotten quiet. Keith, what does that mean, if anything?
I know you want it to mean something. I'm just not sure that it does. I think sometimes quiet is just quiet. I think the major free agents are off the board. A couple of the guys who, like Dennis Schroeder, who sat out there, thought he was going to get a big payday, didn't. He's now off the board. There's only a couple kind of key guys hanging still out there. But I will say this, every once in a while when things go really quiet, that means that the teams are working. They're down to it. Now, it's usually on a deadline type situation. So draft day or NBA trade deadline day, they're not answering calls. They're really just working on putting something together. So maybe that's going on. But my guess is it's just quiet because it's quiet.
How much do you also think all the noise was really legitimate noise? Like, I'm not trying to downplay anything that's out there because I generally believe that the people who are reporting things, they're reporting things for a reason. They're hearing things for a reason. I don't think I tend to believe most people who cover the league are reporting because they have legitimate things to report. But how much of it maybe was a little smokescreen? How much of it was just people stirring the pot?
Yeah, I think when an NBA reporter, not one of these guys who pops on Twitter at this time of year and has 6 followers that you've never heard of, those guys are nonsense, but the legitimate guys, the ones who are around all the time, they're not going to stake their reputation on just throwing out random stuff. Sometimes I think what happens is they may report on speculation a little bit more than actual stuff that's happening. And I think that is a thing that happens on occasion. But I think for the most part, where we're at right now is there is talks going on. You don't hear from different reporters all around the country about different Ben Simmons conversations and offers than if it's not a real thing. It's not something where it's one guy putting this out or it's only reporters from the 76ers side putting these things out. These are people all over the place. So I think there's definitely a lot of truth to what's going on because I think Daryl Morey is casting a very wide net and is seeing what's out there.
Now, you mentioned that wide net. How much that wide net is also the fact that, is there a little bit of, maybe car dealership negotiating going on where you start with a high price and you work your way down kind of thing going on with Morey?
Yeah, 100%. He is too smart to believe that whatever he throws out there as his best offer is going to be what he lands in the end. I think that is the case of you're asking for a lot up front, and hopefully, someone's silly enough to give it to you. So if he can get a team to, come and say, all right, 4 first-round picks and pick swaps and good young players and all this other stuff, sure, yeah, we're in. Then good on Daryl Morey because he got somebody to bite. But I think for the most part, you start high because the last thing you want to do at the end of a trade negotiation is say, oh, crap, could I have gotten more? So I think you're in a situation where you're really looking at it and saying, all right, we're going to ask for a lot. They're going to offer very little, and then maybe eventually we'll meet in the middle.
Keith Smith joining us right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, at Keith Smith NBA on Twitter. Check out all of his work as well, as he works with Spotrac over there as well. Keith, looking at the NBA Summer League now, obviously we didn't have a Summer League last year because of all the chaos that we were dealing with in the world. And so far in the Summer League, it seems like that, there's a lot of fun players, a lot of highlights, but it's seeming like more and more that when it comes to a team, there's a team like the Sixers who has a lot of guys who are, getting even more valuable, reps in. And there are other teams like the Mavs that are basically just trying a team out there just to fill up a roster.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you have in Summer League is you have teams who are filled with some young guys who they're rolling them out there because those young guys are going to be their roster. The team here in Orlando, the Magic, for example, their roster, the guys you're seeing play big minutes in Summer League, those guys are going to play big minutes in the regular season too, because that's what they've got. A team like Philadelphia, these are great reps in time for their kids because a lot of those kids are blocked and they're probably not going to play a lot in the regular season for the Sixers. If they do, then that means something probably didn't go well injury-wise on their roster. Then, like you mentioned, a team like the Mavericks, there's a handful of teams in that position who are basically saying, hey, we don't have a lot of kids on the roster, but maybe a few of these guys pop, we get them to our G League team, or they come to training camp with us first and then to the G League, and we see, and kind of keep our eyes on them. So it's one of those things where for Summer League, it's all these different aims, and it can change from team from year to year. It kind of depends on where you're sitting in your team building process.
For a team like the Sixers, obviously they have guys like Maxey and Paul Reed and guys like out there. Who has impressed you from the Sixers Summer League squad so far?
Yeah, Maxey, big time. Now, I always go back to one of my very first Summer League experiences. An executive told me, Summer League doesn't tell us who can play, but it sure can tell you who can't play. So if someone goes out there and looks terrible, all of a sudden you start to say, uh-oh, is this guy not very good? If someone goes out there and looks great, you kind of say, okay, well, that's good. And in the case of a guy like Maxey, we expect our second-year guys and then certainly third-year guys who are getting ready to start their third-year season to look dominant because they've got a year or two in some cases under their belt at the NBA level. So I think Maxey showed stuff last year, flashes at times that he can play in the NBA. So it should be really no surprise that against a bunch of guys where maybe they're borderline NBA players or non-NBA players, that he's dominant. So I think he looks really good. I think a lot of their other guys have shown glimpses of what they could be, but I think most of them are showing, hey, they're right now bottom end of the roster guys who probably aren't going to play a lot for the big club, but they're going to fill out the G League team and that they'll be there kind of break glass case of emergency type players.
Stay away from the Sixers for a minute, Keith. I got to ask you, like you said, you can't read too much in the Summer League, but I'm curious about Jalen Green because I'm watching him play. I'm watching the interviews he does. This dude literally is taking not being number one overall as like a personal slight. And there's a part of me that loves it, honestly. I love the fact that he's going out there and say, I got something to prove to the world that I should have been number one instead of Cade Cunningham. And no offense to Cunningham, but like Green's going out there with a vengeance in Summer League, and Cunningham looks like he's almost running through the motions.
Yeah, Josh, there's not a part of me that loves it. All of me loves it. I think it's great. I love when these guys come in and they come in with a chip on their shoulder and they're, hey, I should have been number one. I'm the guy. And then I bet you with Jalen Green, he is going to use that against Cade Cunningham. Right or wrong, I think the Pistons made the right choice to take Cade Cunningham number one overall, but I think we're going to see Jalen Green use that every single time he plays Cade Cunningham, or every time, if Cade Cunningham comes out on Tuesday and scores 25 points, Jalen Green's going to want to come out on Wednesday and score 30. It's just going to be one of those things where I bet for years we're seeing him use that as a motivator. And what we're also seeing with Jalen Green too is the impact of having that G League Ignite program and process that he went through, he's already a little more refined. His body's a little more defined than some of these other guys are. His poise when he's speaking in these interviews is a little bit better. So I think we're seeing the benefit. That G League Ignite program, it's not going to be for every player. I don't think we're going to see 50 college kids do this a year, or high school kids instead of going to college. But I think for certain guys like Jalen Green, that's absolutely the right path, and we're seeing the benefit of it for him.
That was going to be my next thing before I let you go, Keith. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned, G League Ignite. Well, now you have the NIL in college sports, where these athletes can go out there and get money. They can get sponsored. I mean, the starting quarterback of Alabama is projected to make $1 million some this year in endorsements. So, like, if you're a college kid at some college, you may not get $1 million, but you can get, like a legit salary basically for the average American playing college basketball potentially. So how is that going to impact maybe the G League Ignite as well?
Yeah, we're going to see. It's going to be very interesting because we also have this new overtime elite on the basketball side that's come out, and they're snagging players. They tend to be doing really well with international players and getting them in there. We saw the Australia's Next Stars program. That's where RJ Hampton and LaMelo Ball kind of came through that process. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I think personally, this is great. I want these kids to have options. College is not for everybody, and it shouldn't be. And I don't. The idea where people say, well, these guys are missing out on the chance to get an education. Well, I'm pretty sure I could take my $1 million NBA contract and pay for some summer classes and make that happen, or I can go get my education when I retire if I need to. So I'm not overly worried about that part of it. But I think that these kids are having options is the best thing for them, because now they can go different ways with their careers and make different things happen. And I think that's really great, because I think we've been shoehorned into one model here in the United States for far too long, where you look at some of these guys overseas from the time they're 14, 15 years old, whether it be in basketball or soccer, they're enrolled in an academy, and they basically spend half their day doing school and half their day, coming up through the training level in their sport of choice. So I think options are great for these guys. And college basketball is going to survive, because it's not like there's 1 million of these spots anyway in the G League Ignite or Overtime Elite. So it's kind of going to be the best of both worlds for everybody.
Keith Smith, NBA on Twitter. That's Keith Smith, NBA on Twitter. Check out his work with Spotrac, also the Front Office Show podcast. And, of course, he joins us every Thursday to talk NBA right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Keith, appreciate the time. Great insights. Have a good one.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it.
Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill here on a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash. We'll get back to your messages next. 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Text Sports 609-403-0973.
To show you how easy it is to file a claim with Geico, we hired a nature show host.
In the native habitat of a suburban driveway, the poor victim of a broken windshield is left assessing his vehicle, utterly helpless.
Well, not true. If he's got Geico, he can file a claim online, over the phone, or with his handy mobile app.
But like a lone gazelle with
Hey, it's Mike Gill from the Sports Bash. If you're an advertising salesperson, how would you like to sell my show, the Sports Bash, here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media? We're hiring new advertising salespeople to sell the Sports Bash, the #1 sports talk show in all of South Jersey at the #1 media company in South Jersey. Selling the Sports Bash is the job that will take you as far as you want to go. An excellent compensation package awaits you, as does a creative and fun working environment. So join the team on the Sports Bash and Town Square Media. It's truly the most advanced media company in all of South Jersey. Start or build upon your sales career by becoming a member of our team here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media. If you're interested, apply at townsquaremedia.com. Click on careers. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.
South Jersey's home for the Sixers and Flyers.
Yeah! He scores! A two-hand jam!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square Media station.
Thursday edition of the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here at 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And as always, you can catch the show live as well on YouTube and Twitter. Hello, everybody. How you doing today? Josh Hennig hanging out with you. Eagles football back in action tonight. We'll be getting to more NFL coming up in about 20 minutes from now. Andy McNamara from Sportsnet will join us. Then at 4 p.m., football at 4 with Adam Caplan, NFL insider from the Insider Bird podcast at 4 p.m. By the way, Phillies lead 2-1 right now in the top of the sixth. Suarez almost got through 5 innings, and they had to go to the bullpen to cover up. So they got him a little bit more extended, a little bit further along, but he started having a little bit of trouble, had to work through it. So that's what is going on with the Phillies. We'll recap the full Phillies series, trying to break a 2-game losing streak. Frank Klose will join us at 5 p.m. to talk more Phillies baseball, as the Phillies are tied right now for the lead in the National League East with the Atlanta Braves. Mets are a game behind, as Neris is trying to get out of the top of the 6th inning right now. Phillies leading 2-1. By the way, it's hot out there. Hope everyone is staying hydrated. It's 105 heat index in Philadelphia right now. So wherever you are, Jersey Shore, Philadelphia region, stay hydrated, drink some water. If you're watching on the YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, you can see behind me, I got my green tea, I got my water, and then I got the drink behind that is my shaker cup with my BCAAs. So I am doing everything humanly possible to stay hydrated. I'm indoors. So hope you all are staying hydrated out there as well. As promised, I love to get to your guys' messages throughout the show. Before we get to your messages at the text board, 609-403-0973 or through the 973 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle. So you can download the app, message the show, get all the news and updates on the Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, high school sports. Just download the 973 ESPN mobile app, message the show right there through the app. Listen to it wherever you go. We're also live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. You join the conversation in the chat below on the video stream. This hour of the Sports Bash being brought to you by John Deere. Nothing runs like a deer. Run with us. Buy them online at deere.com. Couple messages coming in. By the way, shout out to Jeff Bone and Pookie, loyal watcher of the show on the 97.3 ESPN YouTube. We always appreciate him jumping on the show. I love to get to you guys and order your messages. Came in, got a couple messages about the Sixers and the NBA. Before we get to that, we do have a text that came in, and I got to read this text. And because this is the kind of text that always makes me laugh. And maybe it'll make you laugh out there as well. And we're not laughing at the texter per se. It's the topic that's funny. All right. Texter says, Josh, you're putting way too much gravitas on the Eagles for tonight. This is a practice game! Exclamation point. You're not going to see the complete offense or defense, of course. It will be a mistake-filled game. It seems like you're saying that unless the Eagles win 44-0, then the offense can't pick up Sirianni's coaching and the defense of Gannon is terrible. Chill out, man. First of all, the fact that you threw chill out, man, at the end of it is absolutely hilarious to me. So thank you for giving me a good laugh with that. Listen, if that's what you thought I was saying for the first 30-plus minutes of the show, Texter, you weren't listening very well. Tonight is more than a practice game. Tonight is the first time that we can actually have tangible evidence of what the Eagles can and can't be. Of course they can get better. Of course there's going to be mistakes. Of course there's going to be a growth, an evolution, a metamorphosis, whatever word you want to use when it comes to this team, when it comes to moving in the right direction. But it's not like you can't take nothing from the game. Because if you ever watched a preseason game, you learn a lot from these preseason games about who can and can't do things. I'm going to steal what Keith Smith just said about 15 minutes ago here on 97.3 ESPN. He said the NBA Summer League doesn't always tell you who will be great, but it can certainly tell you who can't play in the NBA. I think that description can be also applied for the preseason. You learn in the preseason who can actually cut it. Because if you play bad or play poorly or can't execute in a preseason game, that's a major negative demerit in your column. So, of course you won't see the complete offense and defense. But what you're going to see is, what does Nick Sirianni do in certain situations? How does he handle things? What lineup does he put out there? Who is he interested in seeing more of? How does he handle the substitutions? As I mentioned earlier in the show, remember, right now, we are not expected to see Brandon Brooks or Isaac Seumalo tonight. So that means your starting guards are going to be Nate Herbig and Jack Driscoll. All right. But Lane Johnson and Mile Latta aren't going to play the whole game. And we know that there's no Andre Dillard because of a sprained knee. We know that Landon Dickerson isn't playing anytime soon. So what do you do when the starters come out? Does Matt Pryor kick over to right tackle, or does he go to guard and you kick out Driscoll? Where does Brett Toth play on the line? Does Luke Jariga only play center, or do you give Herbig snaps at center? These are questions that we want to answer. We don't know how the Eagles are evaluating this team. So what you learn is you got to watch the games through the eyes of the coaches. What are the coaches doing with the players? How are the players executing in situations? Yes, we're not going to know everything about Sirianni and Gannon tonight, but we're going to learn more about them. All right? Listen, we've heard, for example, Sirianni in practices, how energized he is, how passionate he is, how much he cares about certain things, right? But we're also going to learn what kind of coach he is, how he handles game day, how he looks at game day. You know, it's all well and good to have a t-shirt. You know, some of the Eagles coaches are wearing a t-shirt that says 1% better every day. And on the t-shirt, the fundamental principles of being 1% better every day are as follows: compete, accountability, football IQ, fundamentals, connect. And they're all pointing to, in the middle of the shirt, 1% better every day. Listen, those things are cool and fun to talk about. But what happens on game day? What happens when you have to get on the football field? What happens when there's fans in the stands? What happens when the other team is strategizing to stop you? When guys are competing for jobs? So you can tell me as much as you want, Texter, and I appreciate you chiming in, that I'm putting too much gravitas, I need to chill out. That's all well and good. That's, to me, those are just as much words as this t-shirt that the Eagles coaches are wearing about Sirianni's principles, his mantras for the team. connectivity, competition, accountability, football IQ, fundamentals. They're all words until you get on the field and we see what you're actually made of for the first time. We were going to all watch it tonight, or you can hear it right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Coverage begins at 6:30. And you know what? I'm excited about football being back, and I'm looking forward to learning about this team and these players. And with all that being said, guess what? I am excited, and I'm not going to chill out. I'm with Brandon over here on the YouTube, who says, I know it's preseason, I'll be lying if I didn't say I was pumped. I'm pumped too. I'm excited. And that means I'm giving this team too much gravitas, or whatever your point is on their texter. You're just being a negative Nancy, in my opinion. Then you know what? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm a little too excited. All right. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. We'll be talking more NFL, preseason, Eagles, and more coming up with Andy McNamara from Sportsnet at 3:20 today. We did talk some Sixers and NBA in the last segment. American Tar Macker, I guess that's your user handle, basically says that Ben Simmons is basically a female dog. You can see the full thing on the YouTube. I'm not going to say it on the radio. It's not a word I like using. I think it's an overused word, and I think it's a word that is just ridiculous. But I understand what you're saying, American Tarmacker. Listen, Ben Simmons is arguably the most polarizing figure of all Philadelphia sports athletes right now. You either think that Ben Simmons has value because he plays great defense and he's among the best in the NBA at getting three-pointers off of assists. He's a great playmaker. He's a great point generator. He's one of the best in the league in generating points per game. Generating points is a stat where they take your points that you score per game and they combine it with the points scored off of your assists. So, for example, Ben Simmons might only score 12 points in the game, but his assists can generate 24 points in a game. So technically then he's accountable for 36 points. If a team scores 106 points and he generated 36 points, that means that he is personally accountable for over 33% of the team's points. So yes, on one hand, Ben Simmons is great at defense, great at generating points, so on and so forth. But yes, on the flip side, his lack of desire to be better than he is, his lack of interest in admitting that he has a problem. I've mentioned this multiple times here on 97.3 ESPN FM. I talked about this on Twitter. The fact that Ben Simmons doesn't own up to the reality that he has a problem, that passing up on an open dunk is a problem, that going out there and every time anybody pushes you or challenges you about anything, you turn around and be like, well, I'm a 3-time All-Star. That's not an answer. That's a crutch. That's a shield. That's a coverall. That's an Instagram filter or a Snapchat filter. That's not an answer. So, Ben Simmons, in my opinion, will never be more than what he is, which is a guy who plays great defense, is a high-level passer, a good rebounder, and a below-average offensive scorer who literally at this point can only score through sheer force of will when he actually feels like it and has a tiny bit of confidence. Until he grows beyond those things, he will never live up to being the first overall pick. And I don't know if he can ever do that in Philadelphia because I think Philadelphia has enabled him too much. I don't think they've pushed him enough to be more than he is. One more message coming in here. Of course, you can chime into the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Download the app, message the show right through the app. Messages come directly into the show through the messenger on the app. Also, you text in 609-403-0973 or chime in on the YouTube and Twitter streams, just like Cyber Dale over here says the Sixers cannot get Dame, get De'Aaron Fox. Here's the problem with De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is not particularly an upgrade over Ben Simmons. Listen, I think De'Aaron Fox is a phenomenal talent. And I like his skill set in terms of the way that the modern NBA is played. But De'Aaron Fox is a guy who he scores a lot of points, doesn't play consistent defense. He really can only guard one or two positions on the floor, whereas Ben Simmons can guard multiple positions on the floor. Also, Fox has an injury history. He has only played the majority of games in a season a couple times. His first year in the league, he started 60 to 73 games played. He didn't play 81 games. Next year, he played 81 games. The year after that, he only played 51 in the shortened season. Last year, which was a 72-game season, he played 58 games. So he has missed a lot of games over the years due to injuries. Do you want another dude who misses time due to injuries on the Sixers? And while he does have some gaudy stats, like 25 points per game, 21 points per game last year, he averages 3 or more turnovers per game. Do you really want a guy who commits a lot of turnovers on your team? He averages more turnovers per game than the majority of starting point guards in this league. And while, yes, he shoots 72% from the from the free throw line, which is a vast improvement over Ben Simmons, his three-point shooting for his career is only 32%. He shot 32 last year, 29% the year before. Not a great three-point shooter. Yeah, he scores points, but he's also taking 19 shots a game and 16 shots before that year. Are you going to get 19 shots a game in the Sixers offense? I think De'Aaron Fox's value to the Sixers might not be as good as to another team that doesn't have a Joel Embiid on their team. And I'm not 100% sure how much of an upgrade he is over Ben Simmons. It might only be a slight upgrade considering the turnovers and the fact that he's a volume scorer. Damian Lillard is a franchise player. I don't think De'Aaron Fox is. All right, we'll get back in the NFL coming up next. Andy McNamara from Sportsnet will join us right here, talk more about the Eagles, NFL, NFC East, and more right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. We are live on YouTube, Twitter, and you can follow us at 97.3 ESPN to watch the show.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles open the 2021 preseason tonight, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Link.
Roethlisberger again, look. He is hit, and football is fumbled. The Eagles have it.
Maryland Mike call all the action starting at 7:30 p.m. This is where the Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
After school and at Matt Blatt Kia, our math is easy. Put 0 down, make 0 payments for 90 days, or pay 0% financing for 60 months on every new 2022 Kia Stinger and Sportage in stock. Plus, we need your trade. We'll even buy it for cash, even if you don't buy a Kia from us. Used car values are at an all-time high. Your car may be worth more than you think. Worried about your credit? Forget it. We finance your future, not your past. All new 2021 Kia Niro EXEV with 0 due at signing and 0 security deposit. Lease just $275 per month. It's basic math. 0 down, 0 payments, or 0 interest for 60 months.
Gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 and 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1667 for 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity financed into new loan. Niro 36-month lease, 10,000 miles per year. Excludes taxes, title, license, and doc fee. Offers don't combine. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Expires 9/6/2021.
Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
And now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Hi, I'm Dan Tracy. I'm a workers' compensation attorney. At Goldenberg Mackler, we've handled thousands of workers' compensation claims over the years. Our experienced attorneys understand the law and will fight to get you the benefits that you deserve. When injured at work, make the right call to Goldenberg Mackler. Call us at 609-344-7131. That's 609-344-7131. Or visit us online at gmslaw.com.
With Indeed Instant Match, just sponsor a post and immediately receive a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash. 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And as always, we are live on YouTube and Twitter. To get more into the football conversation, joining us right now, you catch him throughout this season with me on game night here on 97.3 ESPN. Friend of the show, the one and only Andy McNamara from Sportsnet, will join us right now to get more into the NFL. Preseason week 1 is officially upon us, and Andy always has great insights as he joins us right now. As you see him live on the YouTube stream, Andy, how you doing today, my friend?
Oh, Josh, doing good, brother. Doing good. Preseason football, regular season football right around the corner. I don't care if it's exhibition or if you've seen fourth-string guys. I want more. I want all the NFL.
Oh, listen, we need more football.
We do.
It is what it is. We've been too long. In fact, last week was the first week of a string of months. We will have either an NFL or college football game every single week until the middle of February.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, you know what? I didn't even realize that. That makes me smile. That makes my insides warm, Josh. That's phenomenal. All of it.
I'm glad I could do that for you.
That's right. That's right. You do that to me, big guy. You do that to me.
So obviously in our area, we'll get to the Eagles stuff in just a minute. But before we get to anything, I do want to let you have an opportunity to tell folks about some of the cool stuff that you're involved with, because I know you've had a pretty busy summer with some pretty cool stuff. And some of it involves people like, former Eagle Chris Carter.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, man. I'm the head of football operations now for UFF Sports, Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, and the league itself, UFAFL, Ultimate Fantasy American Football League. And this is where, Josh, and anyone wants more information, hit me up on social media at AndyMC81. This is the most in-depth fantasy football league you can have. We're actually going to be auctioning off some of our 32 franchises this Sunday, starting at 12 noon. I can get you, I'll post the link and all that, but at 12 noon. And some of the ownership groups that we have involved, Chris Carter, along with Michael Vick and boxing champ Bud Crawford. We also have Damon Allen, who's a CFL great from up north with Nick Lewis. As well on the hockey side, Hockey Hall of Famer Martin St. Louis and current star Steven Stamkos. And we have those sort of high-profile guys. But the great thing is people can come in and try to bid, and then you get to compete with those guys. And it's a 53-man roster, 46 active. Like, Josh, you have to manage this like a front office. We're actually hiring. We call it professional fantasy sports. Teams are hiring and paying general managers to help them go through this 53-round draft that we're going to have. It's absolutely unreal. UFFsports.com/UFAFL, and hit me up for info. But you guys need to get in on this. It's so cool.
And that's for the serious people. That's not for the casual. The casual people can hear you throughout the regular season. Yes. We'll be doing each week on game night. For those who are like, hey man, I just want to throw $25 in the pool with my buddies, right? That's for the rest of the conversation. For the real diehard, right. That's what UFF is for. So
that's right. That's right.
Just to delineate. So listen, Eagles are back in action tonight. Obviously, it's a big topic, and I want to start with this. It's turning into more and more that the most divisive topic in terms of national perception when it comes to the Eagles is Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
You have two camps. You either have people who are like, I literally heard Mike Clay, who's a friend of mine, right, of ESPN, say, I got rid of Jalen Hurts in my dynasty league.
Really?
Because, he got rid of him in his dynasty league. He traded him for other players in his dynasty league. So you have guys like him who are like, I'm not sold on him yet. I'm not sure. And you have other people who are like, Jalen Hurts is a leader. He's going to lead this team to the promised land. He's a winner. Where do you land on this debate? Because I feel like the Jalen Hurts thing is generating some pretty intense opinions by people.
Yeah, Josh, it's very polarizing. You're right. You're either all in or you're all out. There's not really much in between. I'm all in. We talked about it on game night on this station before the draft. Okay, before the draft, before he was with the Eagles, about Jalen Hurts. And that was a guy I said then, and I continue to believe is going to be underrated coming out, that you have to watch. And if given the opportunity, will take charge. And when he went to the Eagles, I said it. I get on your show, Josh. I said, if he gets in over Carson Wentz, I wouldn't expect Carson Wentz to get his job back. And he didn't. Hurts, I believe, if you just look at the stats, and it's like, oh, look at his completion percentage. The dude came in, no camp with COVID, nothing. And he's a gamer. He crunched through all of it. And I think he has underrated arm talent. He obviously has the legs. And you give him a full preseason, full camp, I fully believe Jalen Hurts for fantasy and real life is going to pleasantly surprise. And I want some shares of Jalen Hurts. I'll tell you that.
You know, it's interesting as well with Hurts that you mentioned the completion percentage. I went back and started breaking down some of those incompletions. They weren't all incompletions. They were throwaways. Technically, a throwaway is right. How you like Carson Wentz had the most sacks last year in the NFL.
Yeah.
He also held the ball longer than anybody else in the NFL. He was holding the ball almost 4 seconds on certain downs. So Jalen Hurts was saying option 1, option 2, option 3, get rid of the ball.
Yeah. And not take the hit.
Right. If you take away those throwaways in the Packers and Saints games and only factored in the rest of the completions and incompletions, he was throwing almost 67% completion percentage.
There you go.
So at the end of the day, I'm not worried about the incompletion percentage because he's not going to make mistakes. And to me, whether you're a fantasy football player or you're a real football player, guess what? I don't want you throwing interceptions. I don't want you making mistakes. And to me, that's one of the things that makes Hurts so valuable.
I love that you brought that up, and I didn't do the math on it. Thank goodness you did. That would have been a long process and an incorrect one on my part. But that's a great point you bring up. So think about this from a maturity level. How often do you see, and this went back even, let's talk about like Josh Allen taking unnecessary hits. How often do you talk, young quarterbacks want to be Superman. I'll go through anybody, take unnecessary hits. Or do you want a cerebral guy like Jalen Hurts who said, you know what, I'm not going to take the sack. This play's done. Live to fight another day. Throw it away. But if you just look at the box scores, you think, oh, he's no good. Incorrect. That to me shows advanced maturity and leadership that we saw in college. And arm talent, I'm telling you guys, Jalen Hurts this year is going to impress. And don't just look at the stat line. Look at, like you said, Josh, where do those come in? Instead of an interception, do you want a pretty completion percentage? Or do you want to go Jameis Winston style and throw 30 INTs? I'd rather take the throwaway and live to fight another day.
By the way, speaking of Jameis Winston, can I just bring this up to you? Because you and I have lots of random conversations about football. So I'm watching Jameis Winston interview the other day on ESPN, right? And, you know, usual Jameis Winston in personality and look, except for the shirt. He's got like one of the Andy Reid Hawaiian, Tommy Bahama kind of shirts on. And I'm sitting here thinking, Jameis Winston would be a fascinating study in for human psychology, right? Like the dude is such a strange, I can't wait for the football life. I can't wait for 20 years from now when the NFL of football life and the narrator is like, he was the first overall pick in the draft and then everything went sideways. The dude has so much talent and ability, but his personality is so strange.
Yeah, he's like eating. Remember, he was like eating the W's.
Yeah, he ate the W. The finger stuck in his mouth. We're gonna eat this W.
I love. Give us some personality. That's great. No more. Oh, on to the next week. Blah, blah, blah. No, give us some. Good. Wear the Hawaiian shirts. I just hope and pray for us fantasy football players that Sean Payton, for once, takes pity on us and starts Jameis Winston, because we know Taysom Hill's going to be zipping around there and stealing and vulturing yards and touchdowns. We know that's going to happen. But don't make it all about him, because otherwise we know what happens to Alvin Kamara. There's no Michael Thomas. Can we please just have Jameis Winston, and maybe that LASIK eye surgery that he had and learning behind Drew Brees is going to cut down on those interceptions?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because there's a lot of quarterback conversation in the league right now, right? Like Nick Sirianni won't announce a starting quarterback, but Jalen Hurts is taking every single snap with the ones.
Yes.
Okay, you have a situation like Winston and Taysom Hill where some people are saying it's all a charade. It's going to be Jameis Winston. They're not really serious about Taysom Hill. They're only doing it for like showcasing, right?
Right.
Then you have Jacksonville, where Urban Meyer comes out and says, well, I'm not going to announce Trevor Lawrence as my number one starter for week 1 because he's splitting snaps with Gardner Minshew. Like, what is going on in Jacksonville? Like, you drafted this guy number 1 overall. Like, if you liked Minshew, you shouldn't have drafted Trevor Lawrence and you should have traded the pick, right? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer is either going to be this unforeseen legend in the NFL or he's going to be the next Steve Spurrier. Because Meyer has done some weird things in Jacksonville, and this is the latest one. Like, Eagle fans are like, why don't you name Jalen Hurts the starter? At least Hurts taking number 1 snaps. Meyer is like, oh, we're going to split the snaps with Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence. What is going on, Andy?
That makes no sense because you have a rookie quarterback. You give him all this. And, like, is this some form of gamemanship? Like, does Urban Meyer, and I love Herb. I'm a Buckeyes fan. I love Herb. But, like, does he think he's going to fool, the rest of the NFL? Like, oh, maybe they won't use Trevor Lawrence, who they spent that. Trevor Lawrence is playing every freaking snap unless his arm falls off. That's what's going to happen. The whole world knows that's what's going to happen, and that's what it is. So why this game? It's not even close. There's no logical explanation for it. Otherwise, other than you're trying to outsmart people in a very silly type of way. So I don't understand. It should be Trevor Lawrence taking every single snap to get this guy as ready as possible. That makes no sense. The only thing I might be able to think of why, maybe they're trying to showcase Minshew a little bit for trade. That's all I can think of. But you have enough film on him already. What's more training camp snaps going to do?
Yeah, I don't understand what on earth is going on in Jacksonville because remember, Urban hires the strength and conditioning coach, and he has that horrible history of basically being just a scumbag, right? And Urban's like, oh, I didn't know about that. Like, what? Like, this is listen, we all watched Draft Day, right? We all watched Kevin Bacon with the investigator. You want to know who showed up for his birthday party? We know NFL teams do investigations on everything, right? There's a reason why Deshaun Watson hasn't been traded because every team in the league is waiting for this legal situation to be worked out, right? So you're telling me that Urban Meyer hires this idiot as the strength and conditioning coach. He brings in Tebow to compete for a tight end, and now you're splitting snaps with Minshew and Lawrence, who are the complete 2 opposite personalities on planet Earth, right?
Right.
And it's like, if I'm an Eagles fan and I'm a fan of these other teams, I'm like, whoo! Thank goodness we didn't have with Urban Meyer.
I think you're right. He's going to it's such a different animal, right? Like from college to the pros, we all know that as far as control and everything. And for Herb, also the concern is it seems like every couple of years, some health issues come up. He has the cyst, the cyst problems on his brain and all that, which is very serious, of course. But every couple of years, it seems like if something starts going wrong, it's like, I don't feel so good. I'm going to go. And then he feels better. And then he'll come back somewhere and then, maybe it doesn't feel so good anymore. So, to me, if I'm putting the over/under on seasons for Herb in Jacksonville, it's 2 because that seems to be around the spot. But yeah, we're going to see don't be too cute. Trevor Lawrence is your guy. Tebow, I kind of hope he sticks around for a fun, just dumb story that we can talk about. I don't know. I think that might be kind of fun.
I'm out on Tebow, man. I'm out on Tebow.
You know what? It's going to be Tim Tebow throwing a touchdown, first play of the season to Gardner Minshew. Let's go. Ruin fantasy football week 1. That's what's going to happen.
Does that count as a high level vulture move right there for fantasy football?
The ultimate vulture. Let's see it. Come on.
Oh my goodness. Andy McNamara joining us here on 97.3 ESPN at AndyMC81, covers the NFL and fantasy sports for Sportsnet. Let's see a couple more quarterbacks here. First of all, I want to know why on earth Matthew Stafford, and I don't know if we can answer this because we probably can't, but Matthew Stafford's not going to play a single preseason snap. So you get to a new offense, new town, new everything, and Sean McVay's like, he doesn't have to play preseason. Like, to me, that's such an extreme. Like, you know, I understand you want to protect your veterans, but at some point, like there's a huge difference between Aaron Rodgers up playing the preseason, coming off an MVP season, going in the same offense for another year, and they brought in Randall Cobb, who knows the offense just as well as Rodgers does, right?
Yeah.
Like, and Stafford, who is on a new team. And by the way, they added some new offensive personnel like Deshaun Jackson. And, you know, I don't understand. Are you staying away from the Rams, or are you still giving them a chance at this point?
Boy, with the lack of preseason at all, I understand if you limit it, but you need to build up that chemistry to some degree. Just even some. And I know he's injury prone. You want to save him. I get it. And he's a veteran. But you need that type. And we see it, Josh, because those who don't do it, the first quarter of the season is already sort of like an extended preseason with how little guys play. Like, you don't want some live bullets sort of flying, even if they are preseason style for Stafford. Like, I would. It just seems like you're setting yourself up for early season challenges where maybe you could limit those a bit by having him take some snaps. And certainly losing Cam Akers real life and fantasy sucks. Like, that was a gut punch. I was looking so forward to Cam Akers there. But for Stafford, it's concerning. I would say if you can avoid him as your starting fantasy quarterback, you do. But there's also an argument that you're like, okay, maybe just yard wise, you know, as your back end guy, if you really want to punt on the position, I could see an argument for it. Personally, I would try to go somewhere else.
A couple of the quarterbacks I want to ask you about around the league, because I feel like this is going to be one of the most interesting years when it comes to quarterback. How about the guy that's on Hard Knocks right now? Dak Prescott. You know, first of all, I don't know what is going to the relationship between McCarthy and Prescott, because if you're watching Hard Knocks first episode, that is a bizarre relationship. But that aside, you know, they don't describe the injury very well in Hard Knocks. They don't describe it very well to the media. He's getting an MRI to follow up to make sure how his shoulder's doing after throwing for 2 days. Like, what is going on with Dallas? I mean, to me, I came in this year being like, if Dak is healthy, that's a top 5 offense in the league.
No doubt.
You know, and now, well, you know, it's not the full shoulder, it's the bottom of the rotator cuff, and they're consulting the Rangers and the Yankees about, because apparently this is similar to a pitching injury and not a quarterback injury, and Dak is complaining in Hard Knocks he's not getting enough snaps. I am so confused about Dallas right now.
It's very odd, and I'm with you. Dak Prescott is 100%. We saw what that offense did last year, humming. He was on record-setting pace. For the offense. Also, the defense really sucks, so that, you know, you had to compensate for that as well. But when you look at the Mike McCarthy stage, remember, as soon as Dak went down, like, there was almost like a coup. Like, the players were like, get him out, we don't respect him. And they're like, whoa, this guy's going to be fired mid-season. And they battled through. So is this more sort of just jostling for position, whatever, within the Dallas hierarchy? It's very strange. I understand you want to do your due diligence for your franchise quarterback. I get it. But you also have to listen to the athlete to a point. And, like, is he having, like, if he's throwing, and we don't know, like, if he's throwing it and whatever this weird bottom shoulder thingy is, if it's causing him pain, then okay, pump the brakes. Like, if he's feeling good, like, you got to be sorting this out and keep the player informed. It sounds like Dak is very confused. So you have to make sure your quarterback knows what's going on and then get him in and get him going. Because with the likes of CeeDee Lamb, with Cooper, with Gallup, with Zeke, you get Jarwin back. Like, there's a lot of meat on the bone for the Cowboys when it comes to fantasy.
I know that you have a lot of ties and interest in the AFC North this year, considering your Browns made the postseason last year for the first time in since 94, correct?
Since 2002. First playoff win since 94.
First playoff win since 94.
I know all those stats, sadly.
That was oh my goodness, Kelly Holcomb was the quarterback last time they were in the postseason, right?
Yeah, Tim Couch and Kelly Holcomb.
I was gonna say, was Dennis Northcutt on that team? But you just said
yes, Dennis Northcutt. Good for you, John. I'm impressed. Yeah,
it was a while ago. Listen, man, I can remember entire team rosters, but I can't remember people's names I just met last week.
Yeah,
so
I'm with you.
But
we're built that way. That's fine.
It's who we are.
If they're important, they'll tell us their name again, right?
Exactly. I met somebody over the weekend, and she actually came up to me and, you remember my name? And I was like, it starts with an M. She's like, all right, well, that's progress. You know,
that's a bad. That's a bad. Do you remember my name? Like, that's why I always go like, hey, bud. Hey, man.
Hey, man. What's up, dude?
Hey, champ. Hey, boss.
Come on, bro.
Chip. Yep. And then you just hope someone else gets the name, and then I'm with you.
Right, you wait for someone else to say the name, and then you're like, oh, that's her name. Right. You throw it back in there.
And then you slip it right back, and you're good.
Hey, Joe. I was like, well, I meant to ask you.
Joe. I know. I'm totally with you. It's a disaster. And then all I can think about after I miss, they'll say their name, and I'll immediately forget. I'm like, well, I'm done. They said the name. There's no reason they'll ever say it again. I'm ruined. Quick story. My dental hygienist, who is a gem of a human, I've had her for years. She is phenomenal. I love her. I can never remember her name. I found out her name yesterday when I went, and she's going on mat leave for a year. So I'm like, well, now I know it's Ashley, and that does me no good. I've been waiting this long, and now I can't use Ashley's name. So, anyway.
Oh my goodness. With that being said, AFC North. To me, this is probably the best division in football because, you look at your Browns. If OBJ is healthy, that changes a lot for that team.
Yeah.
And they made additions on defense. Don't forget about that. The Steelers, they're probably going to turn into more of a run team because they got Najee Harris down there, which will take pressure off of Roethlisberger, which I still understand why that guy was throwing so much last year. I mean, you got a 39-year-old quarterback throwing the ball 500 sometimes last year. It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. After his elbow surgery.
Right. That's real smart. Joe Burrow is coming off an injury, and they have no offensive line in front of him still. Boy. And then you have the Ravens, which Rashad Bateman apparently is getting groin surgery. He's going to be out for the entire month. So who knows what that means for that offense. So, to me, the AFC North, it has to be the most fascinating division in football.
It's very interesting. And to start with the Steelers, what concerns me on the run side, because I agree with you. I think it should be leaning more heavily on the run. You have 4 new starters on that offensive line. 4. That's a lot. And they're not necessarily improvements. So how that plays out with Roethlisberger, who wore down, and Najee Harris is going to get a lot of work. People ask me, which rookie you're looking for? Well, just from the scarcity and all the committees at running back, you're going to be doing Najee Harris. Whether he's going to be able to be breaking big runs or not remains to be seen, but he's at least going to be getting the look. And for Joe Burrow, reports is when he's in practice, he's fine, but any sort of pressure, he's skittish a little bit, which I guess is understandable, but that's going to be interesting to track because he's not going to play in the preseason to the best of my knowledge. So when he gets in and that first sort of rush comes at him, how does he respond? Because we have to remember too, he was looking good, but he didn't make it through that first full rookie season. So he still has that learning of overcoming when teams figure you out behind no offensive line, as you said. So that's going to be a tricky situation there.
One other thing with the AFC North, I'm just going to tell you right now, for me, I don't know if the Browns will win the division, but I feel confident in saying this. I think the Browns are arguably one of the 5 best teams in the AFC.
Oh,
that's my opinion.
It makes me feel so happy. After all that, they said 1 playoff win since '94 last year. That Browns fans deserve some happiness. We deserve it. And I'll tell you this too. A guy for your keeper teams, maybe not for redraft this year unless you want to stash him, but a guy for keeper and dynasty leagues, get yourself some shares of Donovan Peoples-Jones. This guy's the biggest receiver on the team. I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. with his contract, $15+ million next year, is going to be on the team. He's the best. He's coming through also underrated as one of the best, if not the best receiver blocker. The guy's a willing blocker. He can stretch the field. He's big. He's got amazing chemistry with Baker Mayfield. They're just lighting it up all over camp. That's somebody for the future you want on your fantasy team. You want some shares of some Donovan Peoples-Jones.
There you go. Andy McNamara dropping some knowledge as he does each and every time he joins us here on 97.3 ESPN at AndyMC81 for all your NFL fantasy sports analysis. And Andy, plug the UFF one more time.
Oh, thanks, brother. Yeah. UFFsports.com/UFAFL. We're going to have our franchise auction this Sunday starting at 12 Eastern. You want to get the link either, text Josh and the station, and I'll get it from you there, or on Twitter at AndyMC81, Instagram at AndyMCSports. You guys want to be checking this out. This is where the big boys play. This is professional fantasy sports. Even if it's not just you, you got a group of guys to go in and be a group of owners. have at it. This is as close, I swear, guys, as close as you get to a front office experience in the NFL. It's the real deal. Celebrity athletes coming in and all that. It's absolutely unbelievable. So give it a check out.
There he is, Andy McNamara. We'll be checking with him again soon as football season. The preseason week 1 is this week, and we are just a handful of weeks, about 4 weeks away from the start of the 2021 NFL season. Get excited, Andy.
Let's go. Let's go. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
My friend.
See ya.
Josh Hennig here, filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get some of your messages coming in next. Of course, the text board is there, 609-403-0973. You can message the show directly through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of CLC, and we are live on YouTube and Twitter. Just follow at 973 ESPN. Coming up in 14 minutes from now, NFL Insider Adam Caplan on Football at 4.
There's never an off season for the NFL. It's Football at 4 every day at 4 p.m. on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
On some models excludes core bet with GM financing, excludes price sale. See dealer for details. Have you seen what some dealers are now charging for new cars and used vehicles? It's outrageous. But at Bennett Chevrolet, you still pay what GM supplier employees pay for brand new Chevys. Plus, Bennett gives you all the rebates. That's not either or. You get both. And that can save you up to 25% off MSRP. And Bennett has 0% financing available to save you even more. Got a trade? Bennett's paying top dollar. And we mean top dollar. A minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum $7,000 for any old clunker you can tow to our lot. And if it's in good shape, we'll pay more. And we'll buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. And Bennett makes it so easy. No sales pressure, no negotiating, just pure joy. Because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So you can see why nobody beats Bennett Chevrolet. Nobody. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 97.3 ESPN or visit our website, 973ESPN.com.
Josh Hennig back here on the Sports Bash, filling in for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. As always, we are live on YouTube and Twitter. We'll get some of your messages in just a minute. Just want to remind you, Sports Bash being brought to you by Matt Black Kia. Matt Black Kia, they want to get you approved today. That's Matt Black Kia on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online, mattblackkia.com. By the way, Phillies still have a 2-1 lead right now over the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're trying to snap their 2-game losing streak as Kenley Jansen is coming back into this game. The Dodgers bullpen has just been incredible in this series. So Jansen is one of their best pitchers, and he will be going mano-a-mano with Bryce Harper here as the Phillies hold on to a 2-1 lead. We'll get more into the Phillies a little bit later in the show. Frank Klose will recap the full series that's coming up at 5 p.m. Football at 4 with Adam Caplan coming up in less than 10 minutes from now. But as promised, I'll get some of your thoughts and comments. Of course, you'll shoot us a message right to the show, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Text board is there for you as always at 609-403-0973. And of course, we are on YouTube and Twitter. A couple messages came in about the Sixers, about our conversation a little bit earlier. Texter says, Josh, how much better do you think the Sixers would be if Ben Simmons shot 30% from three-pointers, 40% on jumpers, and 80% on foul shots as Nick from Brigantine? Is that asking too much, Nick says. Nick, here's the problem. I think if Ben just shot better from free throws, the Sixers would be better. Because at least if he's shooting free throws, you don't feel nervous about him handling the ball late in the game. Right now, you look at him and you're like, well, I don't know if I want the ball in his hands because they can go and foul him and he can't make free throws. At least if he made his free throws, you could turn around and say, hey, man, you know what? You might not make threes, but you're 80% from the line, and that solves a lot of problems, and that makes us feel a lot better about the end of games. So I think the Sixers would be better if Ben just shot free throws better. You can't be an NBA player and shoot that poorly from the free throw lines in the playoffs. It's just unacceptable on every level. Another message coming in here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Texter says, like Shaq said, if Ben Simmons was on my team, he had to fight me and the rest of the team to get out of the locker room every day until he at least leaves 100% on the court every night. Here's the problem. I don't know if Ben Simmons isn't giving his best. He may be giving his 100%, but his 100% might not be good enough. I'm serious. I'm wondering sometimes if Ben Simmons is giving you the best he's got, and he's just that limited. I've said it before, folks. Remember, the Detroit Pistons didn't win a championship until they got rid of Adrian Dantley. The Lakers didn't win championships until Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel were no longer there. There's numerous instances of teams winning championships after they moved on from all-stars, which Adrian Dantley, Eddie Jones, Nick Van Exel, and other players were. There are sometimes you just can't win with certain people. Listen, the Cavs brought in a lot of dudes the first time LeBron was there. He couldn't win a championship with any of them. He left. They rebooted the entire roster. He came back. All of a sudden, they were able to get to the NBA Finals every single year and then win one of those championships. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think sometimes you got to move on from players, and I think Ben Simmons just might be one of those players that you got to move on from if you actually want to win anything. So bottom of the eighth, Phillies lead 2-1. Keep you updated on the Phillies as we go along here on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget still to come Football at 4 with Adam Caplan, NFL Insider on the other side, plus Frank Klose, our Phillies Insider at 5 p.m. And don't forget, with all your messages, as we always do, like Dank Burrito over on YouTube, says Urban Meyer is the Brett Favre of coaching. I'm Josh Hennig, filling for Mike Gill. This is 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget 97.3 ESPN mobile app.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.
The same routine over and over again can turn us into creatures of habit who never try anything new. We can easily just start going through the motions, which can
South Jersey's home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, me too. WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN. 97.3 ESPN presents the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Caplan.
I have real confidence that our football operations can once again create a dominant football team.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
The latest edition of the Inside the Birds podcast dropped this morning. Of course, you would know that if you were already subscribed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. We've got the latest information from Jeff Mosher and, of course, Adam Caplan, who joins us every Thursday here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, as he is over in the Chicago area still. Correct, Adam?
Correct. Yes, Josh. Good to be with you. Yeah. Just got done Bears Dolphins joint practice here in Lake Forest, Illinois. Yeah, home of the Bears. They are not going away. Almost all NFL, I think all but 4 are staying at their training facility. So, yeah, the Dolphins came in, and it was a dueling battle of 2 young quarterbacks. Justin Fields had a very good day for the Bears, and Tua Tagovailoa for the Dolphins.
There you go. Of course, Adam will keep you all updated over as well, not just the Inside the Birds podcast, but at Caplan NFL on Twitter for his full trip. But Adam, tonight we have the first Eagles preseason game in 2 years. We haven't seen the Eagles play a preseason game in a couple of years. So before we get into any specific details, let's remind folks of some of the injuries. Obviously, Dillard will not be playing. He is week to week. Update the folks some of the other injuries as well, because there's a lot of young players who we love to see play, but they're not going to.
Yeah, Josh, we talked about this on today's show. That you're right. It's disappointing that where coaches have to evaluate players, not only for the back end, but some guys who they're hoping will play a lot this season, and they need snaps because the Eagles will not hit in training camp. They're not doing that. They're not taking anyone to the ground. You might get an elbow, a forearm, but you're not being taken to the ground, so there's no live tackling. Well, tonight they're going to have live tackling. So for some players, it's for the first time since last season, whether they're a college football player or as a rookie this year or as a veteran. So Dillard's not playing tonight. I would not expect to see the starters play more than a quarter. Whoever starts tonight, Jordan Mailata obviously will be the left tackle. We don't know right now who's going to back up Mailata until Dillard gets back. Kayvon Wallace won't play with his groin strain. Devontae Smith, who's doing fine, I'm told, with his MCL sprain. There's no issue with him being ready for the regular season, but it's an MCL sprain. He's a receiver, so he's not playing. John Hightower, this is not good at competing for the 5th receiver job. He's got a groin injury. Davion Taylor had a quadriceps injury start. It got better. It came back. Now he's got a calf injury. Jacoby Stevens, also the rookie linebacker, who was moving from safety to linebacker. He has now a hamstring injury, and he started to come on before the injury. It's too bad.
You know, one of the things that you and Jeff brought up this morning on the podcast is that who is actually going to come in when some of these guys come out on the offensive line? You know, you mentioned Mailata, Johnson. We expect Kelsey to be out there, and I'm assuming it's going to be Herbig and Driscoll at the guard spots. But you guys brought up, you can't have Jalen Hurts out there with Brett Toth out there blocking. So it's like, you know, how interested are you in seeing what the Eagles do with their offensive line tonight?
Yeah, Jeff made a fair point. I had not, because the coaches will tell you, and I had not thought about that. Like, you could do this. You could have backups in practice with the ones. That's fine, because the quarterback cannot get touched. But in a live game, and this is what we call live, they're going to get hit. You do not want to have backup linemen in there if you can help it. So, I would expect Jack Driscoll to start playing guard for Brandon Brooks tonight. Brooks started working this week, but I highly doubt he'll be able to play. And say Malo, you could have Nate Herberg, who's played center and guard. So you're okay there. 2 players that you know. And then when you pull the starters out, then you get Matt Pryor in there. Unfortunately, obviously, Landon Dickerson's on active NFI. He won't be ready till sometime, and hopefully he'll be able to be ready to at least be a backup sometime in the first half of the season. But we don't know because he's just rehabbing, so we don't know. And they'll take a look at the low-end guys, but guys like Brett Toth, who you mentioned. So but those guys will be in, and Jalen Hurts will be long gone by that time.
Adam, one of the things that Sirianni said to the media this week is that teams will have a lot of tape on them. They'll have any tape on his offense. They've never seen him calling, coaching plays. So what do you expect from a Nick Sirianni offense tonight?
Yeah, this is the thing, Josh. When you look at their situation, we do know from we also saw this at training camp, but we know that because Zach Ertz is still on the team for now, you can't go heavy 11 personnel, which is 3 receivers. And by the other problem is they've got so many guys hurt. I mean, they had to claim Mark and Michelle is now back for at least the 3rd time. He'll have to dress tonight. Hightower's, we know he's not playing. Then we got Devontae Smith. He's not playing. So they're going to have to play a lot of these guys who probably will not be on the roster this season, like Akeem Butler, like Jamon Osborne, Michelle. Adrian Killens, by the way, is now a receiver because of the issues at the position, so he's having to play receiver. Guys like Andre Patton, who Nick Sirianni knows from his days with the Chargers and Colts. So that's the kind of guys you're going to see tonight. Jalen Reagor's got to play tonight. He needs to show me something. And maybe he's the kind of guy that does better in game situations because he's definitely come on lately, but he obviously for 3 quarters of camp so far has not gotten the job done. So we need to see more out of him tonight.
One of the things I'm also curious about is, you mentioned a couple of guys there, Jalen Reagor. You have the running backs here. Jordan Howard's look good in training camp, right? Kerryon Johnson not getting as many snaps. Does Gainwell actually run the ball in the game? He's catching a lot of passes in practice. So this running back situation is fascinating because we know Steichen, Sirianni, they both come from offenses that use a lot of different running backs for different things. Yeah,
Josh, I've been to 5 Eagles practices. I mean, I know Gainwell carried the ball when I was there, but I didn't see him do it very much. It was mostly out of the backfield. So I'm looking forward to seeing him probably in the second half. If Sanders plays tonight, Miles Sanders, I don't expect him to play more than a quarter. Jordan Howard, they know who he is. He's in the best shape he's been in years. He looks good. Boston Scott's had a very good camp. And then Kerryon Johnson, who did not look very good from my understanding their OTAs. Training camp, he's looked okay, a little better lately. Maybe need to get his legs back. Who knows? And Jason Huntley's a changeup. He's explosive. And if he makes a team, which is highly unlikely, if he makes the team, it'll have to be because he's a special teams returner. But I do believe Gainwell's the guy they like to have return kicks this year.
Adam Caplan joining us here, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast at Caplan NFL on Twitter. The latest edition of the Inside the Podcast dropped this morning. Get your hands on it. Listen to it before the Eagles game tonight so you have all the insight you need as the Eagles kicking off around 7:30 tonight. So make sure you get yourself all updated as we are right here with you as well on 97.3 ESPN. Adam, let's flip over to the defense. Obviously, this is the first year of Jonathan Gannon in this defense. And we know that they played very well in practice. So one of the questions I've had today, Adam, is how much of it is just training camp practice? How much of it is Jonathan Gannon actually implementing a good defensive scheme?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. The only question tonight is, do they use the pre-snap and post-snap disguise? I would say probably not. You want to keep it vanilla because you don't want to give the offenses stuff on tape because every team will have access to this game tape tonight. So you got to be careful doing that. But we know that he's big on disguise. And the other thing that he's done, and I was not up to speed on this when we got it from our sources in February that they were going to run a lot of fronts. I just didn't think they'd have so many different looks in terms of 34. Their base is 43, but you'd have a hard time seeing it in training camp. They're running a lot of multiple fronts. Everything we heard about Kerrigan was true to this point. Unfortunately, he's hurt with the thumb. He's not playing tonight, but I don't think he is. But the fact of the matter is these guys are going to stand up. Josh Sweat has stood up. Ryan Kerrigan, who stood up most of his career. Seeing Josh Sweat stand up, I had not seen him do that before. So that was Derek Barnett's done that. Those are the kind of things you're going to see from this defense we did not see under Jim Schwartz and Joe Osman, who's now standing up at linebacker. Jannard Avery's at linebacker, but quite frankly, who'd be better in a 34 front. And so there's some elements of the 34 in this defense. So it's fun. I don't know how much Gannon's going to show tonight, but once the regular season starts at Atlanta in week 1, I cannot wait to see what he does.
You mentioned Kerrigan. He probably won't play tonight, we assume, because of the thumb. So that leaves opportunities for some of the younger guys, after Graham, Hargrave, Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat get their playing time. I want to know what Milton Williams is doing. I want to know what Teron Jackson is doing. I want to see what these draft picks do tonight, Adam.
Yeah, Milton Williams is the first guy that I'll be looking for. Now, the problem is because it's on TV, you can't see all that much because they only give you 1 or 2 camera angles. But based on our sources, we'll find out how Milton Williams looked. There's definitely an issue with his arm length, that he gets caught in the wash sometimes because the offensive lineman can engage with him and get him first because Williams' arms aren't long enough. So it's important that they move him around to create areas for him to get to the quarterback. But he's got great energy. He's a very talented kid. We look forward to seeing him. Then there's the battle with Williams for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th tackle jobs. If they keep 5, they'll keep at least 4. I don't know if they'll keep 5. Marlon Tuipulotu, their 6th-round pick out of USC. We have not heard about him at all. Jeff and I counted. It's between. We've talked about at least had some information on 55 to 60 players of all of our. That's all our training camp shows added together. We have not really talked about Tuipulotu. We have no information on him. So Raekwon Williams, who was not practicing when I was there, so I don't know what the issue was or is. We'll find out more on him. And T.Y. McGill has flashed a little bit. That's number 3 and 4 role. They're up for grabs.
Also, I mentioned Teron Jackson also, Adam, because to me he's a fascinating pick. Him and Patrick Johnson. I know a lot of times later round guys they have a much lesser chance to make the team, but these are 2 guys who did make an impact in college. And you could ask Zach Wilson how Jackson was terrorizing him in that Coastal Carolina game. So I want to know what these guys look like in an NFL preseason setting, and if they maybe have a chance to maybe make a dent in the roster depth.
Yeah, and that's it. That's where the second half will tell the story over the 3 preseason games. And remember, Nick Sirianni is right about this, and this will probably play into how much the starters play in the preseason. Let's not forget the Eagles have 2 sets of joint practices, Monday and Tuesday at home against New England. They play the Patriots Thursday. And then they travel the following week to the Jets for 2 days of practices. Then they play the Jets. So, yeah, and then to close the preseason, which is a week short because there's no 4th preseason game. So you don't have to. Still, you're going to get what coaches call the joint practices or mini preseason games, but they're controlled. They're like controlled scrimmages. And there's rarely tackling in those. So, but they're different, but there's still more work, and then these younger players can get more reps.
Speaking of guys getting more reps, Adam Caplan joining us here at Football at 4, powered by the Insider Birds podcast. How about that secondary, Adam? Zach McPherson, we want to see what he looks like. Obviously, the bringing in of Steve Nelson, as likes to be called, allows them not have to force anybody to start on the outside. But now in a preseason game, you get to see what does McPherson have, how much has he absorbed, and how do they use the cornerbacks behind Slay and Nelson. Yeah,
look, McPherson's got a lot of run tonight. He'll play at least a half. Josiah Scott, who they traded for from Jacksonville, who's playing inside and outside. And McPherson can play inside too. Craig James, unfortunately, has an injury, so he's not playing. But Kevon Seymour, I know they like. I had a chance to talk to him on NFL radio a couple of months ago. He's had an incredible story, so we'll see if he can push for a roster spot. He's sort of a younger veteran. And then the safeties. No, they're down at safety with Wallace out and McLeod out. Graylin Arnold also was out. I mean, they only will dress 4 safeties tonight. Anthony Harris, Andrew Adams, Marcus Epps. Well, actually, technically 5 if you want to count Blake Kaunas and Elijah Riley. Blake Kaunas is a hybrid player who could play safety or corner. He was moved to safety some years ago, and he's also a kickoff returner. But the one is McPherson. He's had a top 5 camp of any player, But now we want to see him when there's tackling and see if the Steelers go at him a little bit. So that'll be interesting to see tonight.
Adam, if you could just elaborate on this a little bit for the audience. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show before you came on about the importance for coaches when it comes to evaluating, because as you said, they're not tackling in practice. So this is an opportunity to have legitimate game tape on these players, because anybody can look good in practice and without pads on, without hitting. We know about Mr. Lehigh in years past, right? So, talk about the importance for these coaches to have this game tape in evaluating the roster. Exactly,
because here's the way you do it. You have to see how they wrap, how they tackle, what kind of technique do they use. See their footwork, because they're going to be able to get physical with like if you're a cornerback, you can now get physical with the receiver. Because at training camp, you're going to see an elbow, a forearm, but nobody's going to the ground. And that's the problem with this. And because as I said earlier, some of these guys have not done it since last December, it's a problem. And, the hope is that with all these different, they're playing with a lot of backups tonight. You're hopeful that these guys show well. And it's good for their careers, because if they're going to wind up being cut, you want to put good tape together. And then, and then here's another thing. One guy I didn't mention on offense. This is a monster game for Tyree Jackson, number 80, who's been one of the stars of camp. Because he's not been able to be hit. He's never been hit as a tight end. He's a former quarterback, so now we have to see how the transition is. You're going to get a real idea over these 3 preseason games where he's at, because he's been really good in training camp.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I just thought of what you just said. We know guys like Logan Thomas have made the transition, but it took him years to make that transition. It didn't happen, one offseason. I think he was with 3 different NFL teams before he finally landed, right?
Right, and the reason, Logan Thomas, you're right, he should have made the decision early. Now, Tyree Jackson, I talked to him on NFL radio recently. He did make the decision early. I was at that Senior Bowl. Ironically, I was at Logan Thomas' Senior Bowl. They both have great size and are good people, high character guys, but they had such major accuracy issues. I give Tyree Jackson credit. Now he's got to get stronger physically, and he's got to learn how to block. Though what we've heard, he's a willing blocker. Ideally, you like him on your practice squad. You could develop him, because if Zach Ertz, here's the problem: if Ertz is on the football team, Josh, in September, you've got Ertz, Goddard, Richard Rodgers, and probably Jack Stoll. You can't keep 5 tight ends. There's just not any room for them. And Eagles are typically not a team that keeps 4 tight ends. They usually keep 3. And they've had 2 at sometimes during the regular season. So I look forward to seeing Jackson and seeing if he could develop.
And Adam, one more before I let you go. Always appreciate you jumping on here. Inside the Birds podcast dropped this morning. Subscribe, download, get your fix in before the Eagles game tonight. And Adam joins us every Thursday here on 97.3 ESPN at Caplan NFL. How about the other side of the ball? The Steelers have already played a preseason game already. So they've already got a little action in. They got to have an idea of what they're looking for. And the Steelers run a defense that you don't run as much anymore. They run one of those it's almost a pure 3-4 defense. So the Steelers are coming in with something that a lot of teams don't run anymore. And they already have a game under their belt in the preseason.
Right. And it'll be interesting to see how many starters the Steelers use. I mean, they had Najee Harris. Roethlisberger didn't play. Their offensive line, it's a bottom 5 offensive line. They got to get things together here, so I'm interested to see what happens with this game tonight. It's fun. Look, it's one of only 3 preseason games. They're Eagles first. If you look at the first 2 games, it'll be interesting to see how much the starters play tonight. Again, I don't think they'll play any more than a quarter, if that. I've always felt there's a little bit of risk playing them too much. But again, I think it is important that they play, because they've not tackled at all. So you want to get them doing that.
At Caplan NFL, at Inside the Birds, both on Twitter. Make sure you check out the podcast like I do each and every day. Make sure, because sometimes they drop the Ask ITBs from the YouTube on the pod as well.
Josh, we got one tomorrow. Glad you brought that up. We're going to drop it tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. It is... Yeah, we told people we're going to do this soon, but we decided to knock it out. So it's going to drop at 6 a.m. tomorrow. It's going to be my entire training camp tour, every team that I've seen. The Giants, I was there Monday. They were in shells. It was a short practice, an hour and 50 minutes, so I'm going to hold off on that one. But we covered about 8 or 9 teams. Cowboys as well, and it's fun. Jeff and I did. We went around the league here, so you guys will enjoy it. It'll be on YouTube and also on pod.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Again, you mentioned the YouTube as well. Inside the Birds on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe there. Adam, great stuff. Enjoy you guys covering the team as you do each and every week. Enjoy your travels on the training camp tour. We'll catch you next week.
Sounds good, Josh. Thanks.
Josh Hennig here, Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget football at 4 and the 4 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash being brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or by downloading the PropSwap app today. Again, the Eagles play tonight, 6:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN is the coverage where it starts. And, of course, we will keep you updated on all things Eagles over at 97.3 ESPN.com, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. By the way, the Phillies won. We'll get you updated on what happened with that. And don't forget, Frank Klose will join us coming up in about 40 minutes from now to get more into the Phillies. And also on the other side, back to your guys' messages. You can message the show directly through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. You also can text the show 609-403-0973. And as always, we are also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just follow 97.3 ESPN on YouTube and Twitter to watch the show its entirety, each and every show. Sports Bash with Mike Gill, Game Night with Josh Hennig, yours truly, and of course the Locker Room with Billy Schweim, all right over there. You can watch the shows, and of course we'll get more into the Eagles coming up next right here. Josh Hennig, filling for Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN FM.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles open the 2021 preseason tonight, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Link.
Roethlisberger again looks. He is hit, and football is fumbled. The Eagles have it.
Maryland Mike call all the action starting at 7:30 p.m. This is where the Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
On some models excludes core bet with GM financing, excludes price sale. See dealer for details. Have you seen what some dealers are now charging for new cars and used vehicles? It's outrageous. But at Bennett Chevrolet, you still pay what GM supplier employees pay for brand new Chevys. Plus, Bennett gives you all the rebates. That's not either or, you get both. And that can save you up to 25% off MSRP. And Bennett has 0% financing available to save you even more. Got a trade? Bennett's paying top dollar, and we mean top dollar. A minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum $7,000 for any old clunker you can tow to our lot. And if it's in good shape, we'll pay more. And we'll buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. And Bennett makes it so easy. No sales pressure, no negotiating, just pure joy. Because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So you can see why nobody beats Bennett Chevrolet. Nobody. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Josh Hennig here on the Sports Bash, Thursday edition, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And as always, we are live on YouTube and 30 feet. Of course, consume the show on multiple platforms. Thanks to 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And as always, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And yes, the Phillies have broken their losing streak by winning 2-1. Yes, the Phillies win 2-1 over the Dodgers. They break their losing streak. They had lost 2 games in a row, but they finally get the win to stop the losing streak. They are now half a game up in the National League East. We'll be breaking down the Phillies more in depth coming up with Frank Klose at 5 p.m. as they finish their series with the Braves. They now go on to take on the Reds over the weekend. The Reds are a great hitting team with an average pitching staff. They're a very good team. The Reds are probably the best team in baseball that won't make the postseason because they're in a division where the Brewers have a 5-6 game lead, feels like every single week. They can't win the wild card unless either the Padres, Dodgers, or Giants completely collapse, because I think all 3 of those teams will make it the postseason. So the Reds are pretty much basically without a playoff spot. And they're a really good team. So the Phillies got to play them this weekend. They're a desperate team, a lot of mashers, so we'll keep an eye on that. Get more into that with Frank Klose coming up in a half hour. This hour of the Sports Bash being brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet, take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or by downloading the PropSwap app today. Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Of course, you can message the show on the text board, 609-403-0973, or through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks, First Bank of Seattle. Or you can message the show through YouTube, stream, or Twitter. By the way, Lincoln Financial Field, because of the heat advisory that's in effect in our region, Lincoln Financial Field will be allowing 1 sealed bottle of water into the stadium with each fan in attendance. So if you are attending the game today, or you're on your way, you're already there, you are allowed to bring 1 sealed bottled water into the game. So basically they're allowing that because of the heat advisory as a courtesy to the fans who are in attendance tonight, because the heat index is 105 in Philadelphia today, and the heat advisory is in effect until Friday night. We're currently in the middle of one in Philadelphia, South Jersey region. So stay hydrated. Take care of yourselves. Be smart out there. Don't take any unnecessary risks. And listen, I'm just because I'm in here in the air conditioner doesn't mean I got my bottles of water, got my tea, got my BCA drink, staying hydrated, staying fueled throughout the show. A couple messages came in during the break. We'll get to those in just a moment. I do want to follow up with something Adam Caplan said. You know, Adam mentioned the fact that I wanted to explain this. I'm glad he did. That this game tonight is for the coaches more so than anything else, because this is a huge part of the evaluation process. You can't take too much from training camp when it comes to player evaluation. You know, Jalen Hurts, according to Sirianni, is great in the red zone. But then when they're not in the red zone, apparently all the quarterbacks are struggling, because Jonathan Gannon is throwing so many crazy defensive fronts at them, they don't know what to do with it. They're all struggling to work through it. So if you are a team like the Eagles with a new coaching staff, with a new system, new scheme, new everything, you're looking at a team like the Steelers. This is a great opportunity for us to see what these players are made of, because even if they don't all have the offense, the defense completely figured out, or they're completely 100% efficient, what do they do when situations get out of hand? What do they do when they got to improvise? How do they improvise? What do they do in those situations? And that's why I'm looking forward to this game tonight as well. I want to know how this team looks. What do they do? How do they handle things if things do go sideways? You know, the Steelers run a 3-4 front. Not many teams run that kind of defense anymore. What did Ben Roethlisberger play tonight? How does the defense respond to that? Najee Harris could get a ton of carries again, we expect. How does the defense handle that? On the offensive side, we don't expect them to play all their starters, but even if they don't play their starters, it's a different kind of defense than what you're used to. So how do you handle that? How do you adjust to that? How do you approach that if you are the Eagles? And again, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing what the coaches see, which is how are these guys been able to translate what has happened in practice into the game? Because you heard Adam Caplan mention it. Zach McPherson, Jordan Mailata, Josh Sweat. These are 3 of the top 5 performers at practice since the training camp started a couple weeks ago. Jordan Howard was great in practice. Can these guys translate that into real game action where there's real tackling and people are competing for jobs? How does it translate? We're going to find out tonight. Hear all the action right here, 6:30 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN. A couple of your messages that came in a little bit earlier. We'll get to them now. Of course, text board is open, 609-403-0973. Also, your message show directly through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. You can download it right now for the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. 97.3 ESPN is the mobile app, or also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can follow us at 97.3 ESPN on YouTube and Twitter to watch the show. A little bit earlier, we're talking about NBA and the Sixers and Ben Simmons. Tim from Millville chimes in and says, can you imagine having Ben's size, speed, and strength and not trying to dunk on people every single time? That's from Tim in Millville. Here's the problem, Tim. I agree with you. I couldn't imagine that because I know that I was trying to dunk on an 8-foot rim as ferociously as I could when I was in high school. We would go to a buddy's house, we would lower the rim, and everyone would try to block you out, and you would try to dunk over people. So for me, no, I can't imagine not dunking on people if I'm 6'10" with a vertical leap like Ben Simmons and the arm length that he has. I can't imagine it. But also because I can't imagine it is the same reason why I can't comprehend why Ben Simmons can go out there and score 40-plus points on the Utah Jazz and flex on them when no Joel Embiid's on the floor and get in Rudy Gobert's face and basically tell him that he's not the defensive player of the year. And then in the postseason game, he passes up an open dunk. I can't comprehend it. That's why I keep saying I am concerned that Ben Simmons is using him being a 3-time All-Star, being a All-NBA defensive first team selection twice. He's using these things as a crutch in order to not address the real problem. The real problem being that he's ignoring that he has a problem. All right? There's a problem. Carson Wentz was in denial too last year. Carson Wentz would throw interceptions. He was statistically the worst quarterback on planet Earth last year. The worst quarterback. But every time he was asked about an interception, every time he was asked about a poor play, every time he says things like, we got to get better. We got to play better. I got to be better. Things happen. We got to play better. We got to be better. We got to learn from this. Never address the problem. Completely overlooked. If the entire world can see that you're dropping back in the pocket and you're staring down a receiver and then you throw the ball and the cornerback intercepts it and you just can't come out and say, I made a bad play. That was a bad interception. I can't make that throw. If you can't say that, there's something mentally wrong there. Whether it's deliberate or it's subconscious, there's something mentally wrong there. And the same thing goes for Ben Simmons. You cannot keep getting up to the media and saying, I got to be better. I got to play better. I'm a 3-time All-Star. I just got to work on some things. No, that's not good enough. What's the old saying from AA? The first step to fixing a problem is admitting you have a problem. And if an athlete like Ben Simmons or Carson Wentz or any of these guys can't admit they have a problem, then you know what? That is part of the problem. You can't go out there and say, you know what? I got to be better. No. You got to own your mistakes. There are so many times that I've watched press conferences with guys like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, quarterbacks around the league, and they say, I made this bad throw. I did this bad. I can't do that. My team can't win if I do this or that. There's numerous times where I've watched NBA post-game pressers, and I see Giannis hunched over saying, I lost the game for my team. I can't play like that. I can't miss free throws. I can't do this or that. And for us to win. I've seen numerous press conferences where all types of players, not just superstars like Giannis, who won the MVP. I've seen Danny Green do it after Sixers games. I've seen Dwight Howard do it after Sixers games last year. You know who else I've seen do this? I've seen PJ Tucker do this after games with the Rockets and the Bucks. I've seen players who are not star players get up at a podium and say, I can't do this and my team win. And I got to play better than what I just did tonight. And this that I did was inexcusable. I can't have these turnovers. I can't have these missed shots. I can't have these fouls that put my team in a bad situation. But for whatever reason, a Ben Simmons and a Carson Wentz can't do it. And to me, the fact that you can't admit there's something wrong, you can't admit you have a problem, you can't admit that you made a mistake is a bigger problem than the actual problem. Listen, Ben Simmons unable to make at least 70% of his free throws is unacceptable. And Ben Simmons passing up a dunk is unacceptable. And Ben Simmons basically had to be pulled off the floor in crunch time situations because he is incapable of being trusted in clutch situations is a problem. But it's even bigger problem when the athlete can't admit that the problem exists. If you can't admit, if you're Ben Simmons, Carson Wentz, or whoever the athlete is, that you have a problem, that there is a mistake that needs to be fixed, and you can't address it head on when asked about it in a press conference, that is the biggest problem because that means you're in denial. And as far as I'm concerned, a guy like Ben Simmons is in denial because he surrounds himself with people who insulate him from reality. It doesn't matter what area you are in life. If you're a basketball player, you're a politician, you're a businessman, if you're a radio host. Hi, how you doing? Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN on a Thursday afternoon. Doesn't matter what part of life you are in. If you only surround yourself with people who are going to give you yes answers, who are going to enable your denial of reality, and are going to enable you to use things as a crutch, you will never grow as a human being, and you will never be more than what you are right now. So if Ben Simmons is okay with just being an all-star and being in denial that he has serious flaws in his game, and he might need a sports psychologist, then I say to him the same thing I said to Carson Wentz. I don't want you in this town anymore. You can't handle being in this town because Philadelphia wants more from their athletes. Philadelphia expects more from their athletes. Philadelphia is a blue-collar sports town. You cannot be an indifferent, defiant, privileged child mentally and be successful and the fans love you in Philadelphia. And I understand Danny Green talking to the media today and says, hey, Ben needed a break from everything. He needed to unplug. That sounds great. But in the real world, you have to go to your job and do your job and be better. If you make a mistake, if I or you or anybody listening right now to this show go out there, makes a mistake at work, doesn't do their job well, they have to own it or they lose their job. They have to be better or they lose their job. Ben Simmons has been allowed to be a defiant child, just like Carson Wentz was. And until he embraces reality, until he grows up, he will never be more than what he is right now. So until that changes, I don't care what Danny Green says. I don't care what Daryl Morey says. I don't care what Doc Rivers says. I don't care what anyone says. I am not stupid. I am not blind. And neither are the Sixers fan base. Ben Simmons needs to take that next step, or they need to find somebody else for this basketball team. Because all he'll ever be is the guy holding a team back. And nobody wants to see Joel Embiid go through the prime of his career like he's in right now, and not get to an NBA Finals because his teammate is too afraid to own his mistakes and to grow from them. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. This hour of the Sports Bash being brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan is now open on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot. Visit them online at mattblattnissan.com. By the way, Phillies win 2-1 today. They break their 2-game losing streak. They currently have a half-game lead in the National League East. We will talk more about Phillies coming with Frank Klose at 5 p.m. tonight. Phillies finished the series with the Dodgers, lost 2, won the final 1. Also, they got a series coming up with the Reds, a great hitting Reds team. We'll get Frank's thoughts on all of that coming up. And so don't forget, Eagles football tonight, back on the field. What are you looking for from the preseason game? You can let us know right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Text board 609-403-0973. Direct message the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. And we are live on YouTube and Twitter where you can watch the show, join the conversation. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill, and this is the Sports Bash.
This is Billy Schweim. Join me Friday night for 97.3 ESPN's live coverage of the South Jersey Lifeguard Championships live from Longport, New Jersey. Coverage starts at 6 p.m.
The South Jersey Lifeguard Championships are being brought to you by McCann Realtor, serving Seattle City since 1939. Tito's Subs and Pizza on Bender Ave in Margate. Blitz's Market with 2 locations. 4th Street. Leeds Builders of Margate. Over 30 years of building custom homes. 7th and 11th Street Bike and Surrey Rentals at the Boardwalk in Ocean City. Open 7 days a week.
New Jersey car owners, stop what you're doing and come see AJ, the trade-in man, at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Cancel that service appointment. Let your tires go bald. Don't put another penny in that old car. The value of your current vehicle has skyrocketed, so cash in your vehicle now. Used car values are at an all-time high. Your car may be worth more than you think. New 2021 Nissan Frontier 4x4 truck. 0 due at signing. Lease $349 per month. Stuck in a loan or lease? We can get you released. We'll buy your car for cash, even if you don't buy a car from us. Worried about your credits? Don't sweat it. Get $3,000 back on every 2021 Nissan Murano and pay 0 interest for 60 months in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot or online at mattblattnissan.com. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle. Rate qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR based on $1,667 per thousand borrowed. Offers can't be combined. 36-month, 10,000 miles per year lease. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 9/6/21. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 97.3 ESPN or visit our website, 973ESPN.com.
4 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. As always, we are live on YouTube and Twitter, being brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet, take your profit, find out how at PropSwap.com or by downloading the PropSwap app today. I am Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill at Josh Hennig on Twitter. Join the conversation with us. As always, text support is 609-403-0973. You can direct message the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank Seattle City. Download the 97.3 ESPN mobile app for all your Phillies, Sixers, Eagles, Flyers, and South Jersey High School sports coverage right there on the app. You can download it for free from the Google Play Store, Apple apps. What is the Apple Store? Is it the Apple Store? I don't have an iPhone, all right? I'm not a trendy dude, all right? I don't have an iPhone. What is the Apple App Store? Let me look this up here. I think I'm always saying the wrong thing. All right. The Apple App Store, or it's also called the Apple Store that's confusing. That can't be right. See, this is why I can't trust the internet. So, okay, it's the Apple Store app. All right, whatever. The point is that if you got an iPhone, you get the 97.3 ESPN mobile app for free. If you got an Android, you can download the 97.3 ESPN mobile app for free. Whatever you got, you can download it, all right? You can listen to 97.3 ESPN wherever you go. You can get all the news and updates. We send you alerts throughout the week on different news stories going on in Philadelphia sports as well as South Jersey as well. So we keep you updated through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. You can direct message the show right there through the app. We're also live on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN on YouTube and Twitter. Give us a follow. Catch the show each and every day. All right. Got that out of the way. As I mentioned, the Phillies won 2-1 today. Found a way to get a win after a bizarre couple days, right? It was the weather delays really derailed this the last two games for the Phillies. And I think that to be honest with you, I don't think they were prepared very well. I think they tried to be more prepared for it yesterday when they started Connor Brogdon and they had Kyle Gibson come in after the rain delay. So they tried to be a little more prepared yesterday, but I think their bullpen was just ill-equipped for the last 2 days. You saw a much better performance from the team today, getting some extra innings from Ranger Suarez, Archie Bradley having a good game. It seemed like they figured some things out because let's be realistic. I told you guys before earlier this week, the Dodgers are arguably the best team in the National League. So you lost 2 games to arguably the best team in the National League. And I think that that's part of the reason why you lost 2 games, because you lost games to a better team. That happens. It's a baseball season. 162 games. You're not going to win 140 out of those 162. It's just statistically impossible. So you're going to lose games along the way. And if you're the Phillies and you win 85, 88 games this year, that means you lost about, 75 to 80 games this year. So, to me, I'm not upset they lost those 2 games to the Dodgers. I'm just upset with the way they went about losing those games. Because you look at games 1 and games 2, You barely scored any runs. You had trouble with the Dodgers bullpen. I didn't expect to get any runs off of Max Scherzer, but you could have gotten some runs off the bullpen. All right. You squeaked out a couple runs against the Dodgers pitching staff on Wednesday, and you won 2-1 today. So basically, you have trouble with the Dodgers pitching staff. And I think that proves that this team, they're streaky. They're going to have moments where they're either really good or really just not good. And I think that this team could be better. They can play better, but they just don't always do it. So it's frustrating. All right. That's my biggest takeaway. I think that for as much as you love seeing them take back the lead in the NL East, as much as you got to appreciate what they can do on a week in, week out basis, I got to say that I'm not a fan of this team, the way they handled this series. I think it could be handled differently. I think it could be handled better. I think this team could have done better. I think they could have been a better team. And I think that's the part that bothers me the most. I had expectations for this team. They could have played better between the strikeouts, the errors. It was just sloppy at times. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. You can direct message the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle State. We're also live on YouTube and Twitter. You can watch the show, join the conversation as well. Text board 609-403-0973. Text chimes in and says, Alec Boehm, too many errors. Dodgers are the best bullpen in baseball. Listen, the Boehm experiment at first is a problem, okay? I don't like this idea that you're trying him out at first base in the middle of a pennant race. I think that was a mistake by the Phillies. I don't think they'll make him in again, but it was costly. I understand the idea is eventually they might move Alec Boehm to first base permanently because Rhys Hoskins has value in the trade market. They could trade him this offseason, maybe improve a couple other positions on the roster, whether it's the outfield or the bullpen, by trading him. Boehm will have a full offseason, a full training, spring training to get up to speed at first base. But to plug him in there in the middle of the season, and considering all the issues he's had feeling in this series, this season, I don't think it was a good idea. And I think that I agree. The Dodgers have a great bullpen. I don't know if it's the best bullpen in baseball. I'm sure there's an argument to be made for what the White Sox got going on right now. There's an argument to be made for what the A's got going on right now. But if you want to say the best bullpen in the National League, I won't argue that. I think that's for sure. To me, I think the Dodgers are the best team in the National League. You lost 2 out of 3 against the best team in the National League, who one of the games they threw Max Scherzer at you. Okay. So I told you, you're going to lose Tuesday no matter what. Wednesday was a winnable game that you just couldn't get around their bullpen, and you barely won the game today. So we'll get more into the Phillies coming up next. Frank Klose, our Phillies insider for 97.3 ESPN comments. The Phillies get at least one win. They salvage, no sweep, and they can turn their attention forward to a Reds team that's got a lot of sluggers. We'll ask Frank about all that coming up next as the Phillies win 2-1 today. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eagles First Preseason Game. Merrill Reese, Mike Quick on the call here on your home for Eagles football in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN FM.
Get in zone, autos.
Hey, it's Mike Gill from the Sports Bash. If you're an advertising salesperson, how would you like to sell my show, the Sports Bash, here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media? We're hiring new advertising salespeople to sell the Sports Bash, the #1 sports talk show in all of South Jersey at the #1 media company in South Jersey. Selling the Sports Bash is the job that will take you as far as you want to go. An excellent compensation package awaits you, as does a creative and fun working environment. So join the team on the Sports Bash and Town Square Media. It's truly the most advanced media company in all of South Jersey. Start or build upon your sales career by becoming a member of our team here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media. If you're interested, apply at townsquaremedia.com. Click on careers. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers,
It's good!
and Flyers.
Oh, big save by Carter Hart.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square Media station.
Final out of the show, Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. As always, we are live on YouTube and Twitter, where you can watch the show, join the conversation as you have throughout the show. You can direct message the show to the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks for First Bank of Seattle City. We are also live, as I mentioned, on YouTube and Twitter. You can join the conversation on the drop-down message section below. A little conversation community thing going on there. And, of course, text board is open, 609-403-0973. Phillies win after losing 2 straight. They started this month off undefeated, lose 2 straight to the Dodgers. Now they get ready for the Cincinnati Reds to join us, talk more about the Phillies as they at least don't get swept, at least a little positivity coming out of the series. Joining us right now to talk more about the Phillies is our Phillies insider, Frank Klose, who joins us right now on the stream. You can see him on YouTube and Twitter. Frank, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Josh?
Doing pretty good. So at least the Phillies didn't get swept. I think that's kind of the the takeaway. But Frank, I said it earlier this week, and I want to ask you about this. Frank, to me, I looked at it like this. Frank, I figured they were going to lose the Max Scherzer game. To me, I felt like they were going to lose that game all along. To me, it was the middle game that kind of bit them, right? It was the rain delay. It was trying to put Gibson after the rain delay. Didn't 100% work out. So we knew, at least in my opinion, I think the Dodgers are the best team in the National League. So you knew this wasn't going to be some like walkover series. So what do we take away from losing 2 of 3 to what I think is the best team in the National League?
Well, I said on Tuesday, I thought the Phillies would be okay if they win 1 out of the 3. Now, you would have hoped that maybe the Gibson start or the Nola start would turn out a little bit better. And today, Ranger Suarez looked really, really good. But, of course, he's still building that pitch count up, still building that stamina up. Couldn't give you the innings that another starter might. And it was really important that they won this one. And I will say this, I've always wondered for years why managers didn't try to play the weather forecast and maybe hold off a starter when it was obvious that a line of thunderstorms is coming into the area. And so I like that Joe Girardi did that. I think that did help a little bit today, because when you think about it, the Dodgers and the Phillies both had to deal with that weather 2 nights in a row, right? But the difference was the Dodgers had to go to their bullpen early 2 nights in a row. The Phillies got more out of their starter, their real starter last night in Kyle Gibson. And that maybe gave the Phillies an edge today, because then the Braves, why do I keep saying Braves? I guess my Braves are on my mind. The Dodgers had to rely on their bullpen a lot more today. And even though it was only a couple of runs they gave up, that made the difference. The Dodgers are a very, very good team, and the Phillies were able to eke that out.
Well, maybe you had the Braves on the mind, because we know the Phillies with a half-game lead, the Braves, they basically start playing, like 6 minutes? With the Reds, and the Reds are the team the Phillies play next. So maybe that's why you're thinking that.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk about the Braves anyway.
Right. We'll also talk about the Reds too, because listen, it doesn't get easier offensively, right? You go from a Dodgers team that has a lot of huge names to a Reds team that arguably is just good of an offense. I mean, Castellanos, Winkler, Votto, they got a bunch of studs in that lineup. So the offensive issue is not going to get any easier for the next 3 days.
Yeah, they will have to keep those bats at bay. But, the Phillies and the Reds have been kind of comparable throughout the season. In fact, I think if you compare the records, the Phillies would be like a game behind the Reds. And, the Reds are one of those teams that are kind of hanging in contention, maybe for a wild card, maybe not. Probably not at this point. I think they've fallen far enough down, but they're definitely not a team you can take lightly. And the Phillies are going to face their 3 best starters. Now, of those 3, Luis Castillo not having his best year, but they will get to face Sonny Gray, which he's not the Sonny Gray that has been in the past for Oakland, but they're facing a decent Sonny Gray as well. So I think that the Phillies really need to. Really need to put up some offense against some tough starting pitching, and hopefully they'll have JT Realmuto to do that, because I think the lineup really could use having JT in that lineup.
You mentioned JT. The good news came out today. No concussion. He doesn't have to go on the concussion list or anything like that. So do we expect to see him at least Friday, Saturday as a starter?
Sounds like he got fully cleared. So he should be in that lineup against Tyler Mahle tomorrow. I would expect. And by the way, Knapp did get a little banged up on his one at bat, and he did come out and catch again. So we were kind of wondering if we would see JT at the end there for a little bit, but we'll see. If the Phillies make a roster move and bring Marchand back, then you kind of know something's up. But I thought it was pretty telling that even last night I was kind of paying attention to the game in Lehigh Valley. Even after JT had exited, Marchand stayed in that entire game for the Iron Pigs. So the Phillies didn't call up to Lehigh Valley and say, hey, get Marchand down here just in case. So I tended to think that was a good sign as well.
Frank Klose joining us here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Phillies salvage the series with the Dodgers, win 1 out of 3, and they're looking ahead to the Cincinnati Reds. Frank, one of the things that I think a lot of people are frustrated right now, and I got to ask you about this when it comes to the Phillies, is Alec Bohm. I got to admit, I was not a huge fan of just throwing him in there at first base in the middle of this past series, and I feel like, listen, if you want to go into an entire offseason and say, hey, Alec, you're going to play first base next year, we're going to trade Rhys Hoskins or whatever in the offseason, that's fine. But in the middle of a pennant race against the Dodgers, you throw him at first base, that felt, I don't know, a little irresponsible, shall I call it?
He did okay last year, but quite honestly, he was as good at first base as he was at third base.
That's not saying much.
I know, but I guess the issue is that the left side of the infield's been a problem. So they thought maybe, he would have it a little bit easier playing on the right side of the infield, where there are fewer lefty hitters than there are righty hitters, and maybe that would have been better. I kind of wondered early on that if Hoskins would be out for a while, would you get Bohm off of third base? But I think yesterday he kind of proved that that's not so much better either. I see Alec Bohm being their left fielder next year. That's something I'm still believing is going to be the case. But like today, he could not be in the lineup. He has actually been playing pretty well lately. So I forget who tweeted it out, but they said, well, he's had a quiet, good bat the last couple months, and unfortunately, he's had a loud glove the last couple months. And so today was a must-win game for the Phillies. You just could not put him in there. You could not deal with any more errors that lead to runs and extend the outings of pitchers, especially given all the rain the last couple days. So they had to go with Torreyes there, and Torreyes had a big hit today. He drove in one of those 2 runs, so that was very, very important. But I think you're going to see Bohm on the bench more as time goes on, just because, especially when Freddie Galvis joins the team. Galvis and Torreyes are going to play a lot on that left side of that infield, I believe.
What is the status of Galvis? I know that he's pretty close to coming back, right?
Yeah, they've been saying that, but he hasn't begun a rehab assignment or anything. I would imagine he would play a few games with either Reading or Lehigh Valley first. So I guess once we know he's headed somewhere, then we know he's getting really close.
Frank Klose joining us here, Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, at Frank Klose on Twitter. Of course, the Phillies mailbag every Tuesday on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Phillies finish off this series, get one win against the Dodgers. And Frank, I keep mentioning that I think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. Someone messaged the show saying that he thinks we need to be more positive about the Phillies winning against the Dodgers because they're such a good team. What is your reaction to that? Do you think we're not being positive enough?
Well, see, I the shame of this series was there was a really good pitchers duel on Tuesday night with Scherzer and Nola, both going toe to toe, striking out a lot of guys, no runs allowed, and then the rain messed that up. So, I kind of give this series a pass, just because then when you get back off of that, I realized the Phillies were only down a run after Hammer gave up, which I think was his first run of the year, but they kind of went to the B part of their bullpen on Tuesday, and I feel like you kind of had to. Just because that the Dodgers are that good, and so he could save his ace arms like Archie Bradley, who got today's win for later on to try to win those games. So it's tough. I think the rain messed this one up enough that you're happy you got 1 out of 3. You prefer they get 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3, but. I think this is okay. I think this is one that Mother Nature just kind of screwed up in a lot of ways, and so we'll see how they do against the Reds. Again, a team that's decent, probably kind of competitively matched to the Phillies. I think that'll tell you a little bit more than this past series against the Dodgers.
Yeah, you mentioned about the Reds. They have a little better record than the Phillies. I think the Reds are the best team in baseball that will make the postseason, in my opinion, because they're 5-6 games behind the Brewers. I don't think they win the wild card unless the Padres or Giants completely collapse and fall apart. I don't see the Reds getting in the wild card. So the Reds, while they think they're fighting for a playoff spot, the Phillies are fighting for 2. So like you said, this is going to be a series that you're going to find out, where the Phillies think of themselves in terms of their ability to execute. Because realistically, I would put it this way. You made the additions you made at the deadline, right? With the idea that you got to go out and beat a team like the Reds to keep the ball rolling to try to win the National League East.
And, the Phillies are pitching Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler in this series. Now, the middle game on Saturday, unfortunately, they're going with the Matt Moore, maybe kind of TBD starter. It seems like it'll be Matt Moore, but he's the only lefty in the bullpen right now. So Saturday is a little bit iffy, but when you have Zach Wheeler on the mound, again, he's going to face the Reds' best starter tomorrow. But then you have Aaron Nola on Sunday. In fact, I'm interested in seeing more Aaron Nola, as good as he's looked the last 2 times out. I mean, you kept wondering for a while which Aaron Nola you would see. Hopefully he's into a groove and he can help the Phillies take a key game here because, even though Zach Wheeler's your best pitcher, you can't take for granted they're going to win all the time. Again, they're facing the Reds' best pitcher. But yeah, it depends how the funny thing about these series is, you're kind of as good as your starters that you throw for that series. So Phillies didn't throw Wheeler in this series, but they will next series, and then Nola will appear as well. So, they can kind of hang with anybody with those guys on the mound, no matter what team it is. And it's good they're getting them against the Reds rather than the Diamondbacks, and then you'll see that they're back around for the Padres series.
You mentioned Aaron Nola. I can't get out of my mind when Dombrowski said that it was a mechanical issue. Remember that was about a month ago about Aaron Nola? And since the All-Star break, he's had 5 starts. He has a 3.72 ERA, which isn't horrible. Not great, but guess what? His batting average against is 185. So, yeah, he's allowed a few runs, but it's not like the hitters are getting a lot of contact off of him. So you could argue that, yeah, the Phillies are only 1-1 for him as a starter in those 5 starts, so he's getting the decision. But you know what? Maybe he's figured out the mechanical issues that Dombrowski talked about.
Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, we all knew that he was better than what we were seeing, right? Aaron Nola has enough of a track record that, and I learned this from Larry Boa, who used to talk about looking at a guy's baseball card at the end of the season, right? The back of the baseball card, you kind of know where you're going to be. Some years will be better than others, but you expected that at some point Aaron Nola would not be a pitcher with a 4.5 ERA. And so he's kind of getting back on track. And, these are long seasons. Last year was a really tough season for everybody. And so, maybe he got knocked off his game a little bit, but it's definitely encouraging for the Phillies that Nola's been looking a lot better lately. And really just the fact that he was stepping up against the Dodgers, against Max Scherzer, I think that was a good sign. And it's just really a shame that rain kind of got in the way of that one.
Yeah, and also the fact that, he has 3 straight no decisions. So you look at him and Wheeler, you take out their win-loss record, look at all the other numbers. They're both pitching. I mean, Wheeler's pitching amazing, but Nola's pitching well. So I think sometimes people get enamored with the win-loss record when it comes to pitchers and not look at the other things, because guess what? The Phillies won the game that Nola allowed 5 runs in. So, and they lost the last game when him and Scherzer were dueling because of the rain delay. So you could argue that, sometimes things happen. They're out of pitcher's control. And that, like I said, if Nola's got a 185 batting average against since the All-Star break, I think he's figured something out. And I'm a lot more confident in him heading down the stretch here.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And let's remember too, one thing to look at with these numbers too is the defense and how the defense has let them down on a regular basis. And every time you need to add a couple extra outs every game, that makes a huge difference on your final line. So I can see him getting better, even if the stat line doesn't say so. That's fine. And by the way, the pitcher with the second most wins, tied with Aaron Nola right now, is Archie Bradley. So. We're kind of past the wins and losses, and by the way, which is a sign that Bradley's kept them in a lot of games in the middle innings. But we're in an era now where the wins and losses often go to those middle inning guys because you don't pitch that long anymore.
Speaking of pitching that long, what do you think about Ranger Suarez today? I thought that it was nice to see him get a little deeper into the game, get a little more stretched out. He was a little more efficient in the first few innings. I got to say, I like what I saw from Suarez today.
Yeah, Suarez seemed to run out of gas a little bit in the 5th inning. They kind of hoped they would get him through that 5th inning. And the unfortunate thing is a wild pitch from Enyel De Los Santos led to that unearned run that Suarez gave up. If De Los Santos was able to get that, keep that runner at second base, he might not have scored. So he looked really good. He was striking out some guys. He did walk a couple. But you can see that he's building back up into a starter, and they were hoping he would go somewhere into the 70s in terms of pitches. Suarez ended up getting over the 80 mark, and so once that happened and he had a couple base runners, it seemed kind of clear he was kind of losing that steam. So looking forward to seeing what he'll do when he has a more extended outing. I'm sure they'll let him loose a little bit more each time out, and then hopefully in a start or two he'll be at the point where he can just pitch until he pitches. Obviously 100 has sort of become the magic number of pitches in Major League Baseball, but he's getting pretty close to that. So hopefully he can give them five or six good innings every time. I mean, he's looked very good, and he's if the Phillies make the playoffs, he's going to be a big part of that, because whatever role they've given him, he's just excelled in it. Whether it be long man, closer, or starter, his ERA is 1.07. I mean, the fact that he's had all those roles and still manages to keep the runs from scoring and keep his cool. He's such a level-headed guy, just goes about his business. And, the thing that really opened my eyes for him this year was that game in Miami. And that was kind of where the Phillies started to turn around a little bit. He comes in for Spencer Howard in the 3rd inning, the bases loaded, no outs. And Suarez just gets to business and gets him out of that jam. The Phillies come back and win. So pretty impressive what he has done for the Phillies this season. And hopefully the longer that he can pitch in games, the more and more impact he'll actually have.
So then, with that being said, what we've seen from Ranger this year, how does that translate into the Phillies' future plans? Because obviously, if he's able to be this pitcher you can rely on, do you go into next year saying we want to turn him into a full-time starter again? Do we want to maybe put him back in the bullpen? What do you think the Phillies should do with him long-term?
It's a good question. I think he wants to start, and he's certainly earning his way into being considered to be a starter. But as we know, in Major League Baseball, you don't go a season with 5 starters. So, the Phillies will have Wheeler back, well, unless they make any moves, of course. It stands that Wheeler will be back, Nola will be back, Gibson will be back. They still control Zach Eflin. And so is Suarez that 5th guy going forward? Who knows? You always want some more depth than that. And, is he willing to let his role sort of be fluid? I mean, he seems to be okay with wherever they're going to let him pitch, right? But, I think that's something he wants to do. And He doesn't have that many starts left to prove it, but I'm sure if he gets five or six starts that are full starts, he might have to make them seriously think about including him in the plans. But it's always good to have extra, and so we'll see what happens in the offseason. The Phillies probably will have to add a starter of some sort, just because you need that depth. And this year they added a couple extras, and with Moore and Anderson, and we've seen how that's worked out, right? So, and of course Spencer Howard was part of the equation, and Vince Velasquez was part of the equation. This bunch is probably better than those four, but just get as many in there as you possibly can. So, double headers and other issues that come up. Hopefully, no injuries, but you need more than that. So, whether he is counted on as number 5 or number 6, he's probably going to pitch a lot. It'll probably start a lot. So, but this is his chance to show he belongs. And by the way, last spring, a lot of people forget, before the shutdown, Ranger Suarez was pretty poised to beat out Vince Velasquez and Nick Pivetta for that 5th starter job. And then the shutdown happened, and then right as they were reporting to summer camp, Suarez got COVID and was stuck in his hotel room and couldn't really. It took him a long time to get his strength back, and kind of last year was a lost year. But before before the world shut down, Suarez was looking pretty good and poised to be a starter. So hopefully a combination in that. And what we see out of him going forward can help the Phillies make a good decision.
Frank Klose joining us here on the Sports Bash. 97.3 ESPN covers the Phillies for 97.3 ESPN.com, at Frank Klose on Twitter. Of course, the Phillies mailbag every Tuesday at 2:40 here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Phillies win 2-1 today. Avoid the sweep from the Dodgers by winning that game today. Ranger Suarez did start today. Now, you mentioned about on Saturday, speaking of starters, the whole Matt Moore amalgamation with the bullpen thing going on. So do we have any updates on the other guys? We know that guys like Eflin and Velasquez and Anderson, they're unavailable right now. So, is there any update on if or when any of those guys might return?
The ones that sound like they're our closest. Now, of course, Brogdon was a surprise return yesterday, which was great. Which, by the way, I think that's a sign that the Phillies could surprise us a little bit, because they didn't send him on a rehab assignment, but so they might be willing to do that if they really feel like they are that desperate. I will say this too. One sign though is they added David Paulino from Lehigh Valley today, and to do that they sent Sam Coonrod to the 60-day injured list. So it sounds like Coonrod is not anywhere close to returning. Some good news is Bailey Falter began his rehab assignment with Lehigh Valley. So he should make an appearance tonight. So I'll be keeping an eye on that to see how he does. That would be a big boost to this bullpen, which if Matt Moore starts, they have no lefties in. And then, Zach Eflin, he's throwing a little bit, and he says his knees feel strong. So he could be a rehab assignment away from joining the Phillies soon. And then on top of that, Sir Anthony Dominguez, who all along I kind of said was a big wild card if they happen to get to see him this year. He's looked pretty good so far at his minor league rehab appearances, and he's with Reading right now. He made 3 appearances for the Jersey Shore Blue Claws. I got to get used to saying Jersey Shore and not Lakewood. But he looked pretty good in those, but he's going to kind of move up the ladder, and we'll kind of see where that goes. So it seems like the Phillies have a lot of reinforcements not that far away. It's just hopefully they can get them sooner than later. But I think certainly Falter and Dominguez, they need those rehab appearances, and I'm sure Eflin would take one too. But the fact that they got Brogdon back right away, that was a huge boost to this Phillies team.
Now, speaking of boosts to the team, we saw that McCutchen came back this week. We know that he is back and at it. He's good to go moving forward. Really nice catch yesterday. What is the status of some of the other injuries? I know Hoskins has jumped on the injury list. We mentioned Freddie Galvis. We don't know about him yet, but I want to ask you about Rhys Hoskins, because I'm assuming that that's a guy that they could really use in this lineup. And he's been productive. He's had a really good season offensively.
Yeah, so his groin has a strain, and it sounded like over a couple days ago when they put him on the IL, they were working him out with the doctor to try to figure out if he'd be ready to go or not. And they decided it seemed like they decided to err on the side of caution. So they expect this IL stint to be the minimum 10 days, and that he could be back on Tuesday against Arizona. in Phoenix. So the good news is you'll get Hoskins back. He won't be around for the Red Series, but he could be back for the Diamondback series. So, by the way, that would be huge too, because then it frees up Brad Miller to perhaps maybe play a little outfield or fill in wherever else you need. Because when they were without McCutchen and they were without Hoskins, your I guess your super sub there couldn't do both positions at once. So that'll be huge as well. So it sounds very promising then that this team is kind of coming back together quickly, and they will need everybody to be back together. Now, the Dodgers series was a tough one with those injuries, but it sounds like in the next week or two they could be getting some back. I'm really interested in seeing what Sir Anthony Dominguez looks like in the major leagues, because again, total wild card.
Now, you mentioned the next 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks are interesting because if you include the Red Series, that means they only have 3 of the next 7 series versus teams that are playoff teams, right? You got the Reds for 3 games, the Padres on the road, and then Diamondbacks for 2 at home. The D Rays at home, the Tampa Bay Rays. You want to call them a Devil Ray? Well, they were wearing a Devil Ray uniforms 2 weeks ago. They had this thing 2 weeks ago that confused me out of nowhere. Like, oh, we're wearing Devil Ray uniforms again. I'm like, wait, they still had those uniforms? But anyway,
they wore them when the Phillies played in Tampa.
Yeah, I don't understand. Is it like Devil Rays Day, like every month, like one day a month? Like I don't know what's going on down there in Tampa. But still, they're a playoff team. They're I think they're leading the AL East right now. So you only have 3 of the next 7 series that are against playoff teams, so they have a chance to at least keep building on their what is currently a half-game lead in the NL East.
Well, I would say be careful, because the Atlanta Braves, their schedule, it looks pretty easy for the next few series. They face the Nationals, the Marlins, and the Orioles. So they've got 9 games against teams they very much should win before facing the Yankees, Giants, and Dodgers. So the Phillies really need to take care of business in this upcoming stretch, because at least if you're just going team by team, the Phillies will. Phillies do face the Diamondbacks 7 times in the next few weeks, but the Braves do have pretty much a comparable schedule. So I'm not one who thinks that the Phillies have an advantage with their schedule. I think the Braves and Phillies both kind of have the same kind of road ahead of them. So I'd be very, very careful to take these games lightly, or just because the Phillies need these W's, because the Braves, at least on paper, should pick up a lot of W's the next few weeks as well.
Sure. And now it also should be noted that the Mets don't have as easy of a schedule, because I believe they're playing with the Dodgers and Giants in back-to-back series. So the Mets could sink, but the Braves will still be hanging around, correct?
Yeah, I think the Mets will sink. The Mets go Giants, Dodgers, Giants. It's like a stretch of like 10 games against those 3 teams in a row. The Braves do face the Giants. They do face the Padres in September. So the schedule will come around that they play a lot of these same teams. But I think the Mets, they did win last couple games. I don't think much of the Mets. I think we've seen the peak of the Mets, and again, not to take them lightly, but I think the Phillies and Braves will be the 2 teams that come down to it at the end. And you look at the schedule, the Phillies and Braves play each other to the second to last series, so that could be a really big game when the Phillies head to Atlanta and face the Braves. That last week of September, it could all come down to that.
He is Frank Klose. Give him a follow on Twitter at Frank Klose on Twitter. The Phillies mailbag is every Tuesday on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, as the Phillies are getting ready for a 3-game set with the Reds before they hit a little West Coast trip to take on Arizona and San Diego. And Frank will keep you covered with all the Phillies over there on Twitter at Frank Klose, as well as over at 97.3 ESPN.com and 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Frank, always appreciate you jumping on and giving us some more insight into the Phillies, as, hey, man, they got 1 away from the Dodgers. It's better than none, right?
1 is better than none, but I think 1 out of 3 against the Dodgers, they can move forward and withstand that. That shouldn't be a problem.
Great stuff, Frank. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Josh Hennig here on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Filling in for Mike Gill this hour of the Sports Bash, being brought to you by JCPenney. It's back to school season, and the smart time to shop is now. Shop doorbusters all day today through Sunday while they last. Weekdays are back in style at JCPenney. We'll get back to you guys' thoughts and comments next as the Eagles' first preseason game is like the Phillies win 2-1 versus what I think is the best team in the National League. Also, talked some Sixers earlier in the show. We had some pretty intense thoughts and conversations about Ben Simmons as well. So get back to you guys' thoughts and comments next. 609-403-0973 is the text board. You can direct message the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. And we are live on YouTube and Twitter. You can watch the show. And, of course, I am Josh Hennig, at Josh Hennig on Twitter. This is the Sports Bash. On a Thursday edition, the first Eagles preseason game is tonight in 2 years.
This is Billy Schweim. Join me Friday night for 97.3 ESPN's live coverage of the South Jersey Lifeguard Championships live from Longport, New Jersey. Coverage starts at 6 p.m.
The South Jersey Lifeguard Championships are being brought to you by McCann Realtor, serving Seattle City since 1939. Tito's Subs and Pizza on Venter Ave in Margate. Blitz's Market with 2 locations in Ocean City at 21st and 34th Street. Lee's Builders of Margate, over 30 years of building custom homes. 7th and 11th Street Bike and Surrey Rentals at the Boardwalk in Ocean City, open 7 days a week.
On some models, excludes Corvette with GM financing, excludes price sale. See dealer for details. Have you seen what some dealers are now charging for new cars and used vehicles? It's outrageous. But at Bennett Chevrolet, you still pay what GM supplier employees pay for brand new Chevys. Plus, Bennett gives you all the rebates. That's not either or, you get both. And that can save you up to 25% off MSRP. And Bennett has 0% financing available to save you even more. Got a trade? Bennett's paying top dollar. And we mean top dollar. A minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum $7,000 for any old clunker you can tow to our lot. And if it's in good shape, we'll pay more. And we'll buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. And Bennett makes it so easy. No sales pressure, no negotiating, just pure joy. Because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So you can see why nobody beats Bennett Chevrolet. Nobody. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
compensation claim, in most cases, the injured worker doesn't get the money they're entitled to. That's why you need the right lawyer. When injured on the job, call us first. We'll speak with you for free and get you all the money and benefits you deserve.
Make the right call to Goldenberg Mackler. Call us at 609-344-7131. That's 609-344-7131. Or visit us online at gmslaw.com.
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 97.3 ESPN or visit our website, 97.3ESPN.com.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And as always, we are live on YouTube and Twitter. Appreciate everybody tuning in to the show today for the Sports Bash. Being brought to you by Matt Black Kia. Matt Black Kia will get you approved today. That's Matt Black Kia, Black Horse Bike, Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online, mattblackkia.com. Thanks again to Frank Klose for joining the show. A lot of great stuff with Frank. I always appreciate picking Frank's brain because, sometimes I feel like I see things when I watch baseball games and I need a little clarity because, even though baseball was the first sport I ever played, well, team sport I ever played. I played other things before that, but it's not a sport that I ever want to say I'm an expert on. I have my opinions and my thoughts about the sport, but I would never say that I'm an expert on baseball because of the fact that I think there's a lot of things about the game that, because it's a day-to-day game, that you need a little context with. And listen, I understand that there is a tendency to overreact, as we all do, and sometimes a negative way when it comes to this team. But let's be realistic. I think that the Red Series, like Frank said, I tend to agree with him. It's a great opportunity for them to establish some things, to keep the ball rolling forward. And I think that there's a wonderful opportunity to take the Red Series, win that 2 out of 3, hit the road, get on a winning streak, or at least win more games than you lose overall. If you win 2 out of 3 against the Reds, you sweep the Arizona Diamondbacks, then you win 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3 versus the Padres, you still have a strong lead and you didn't lose too much when it comes to your dueling situation with the Braves. I think that the Phillies are in a wonderful position to grow as an organization. And I think that if they can make the postseason, if they can legitimately put themselves in a situation where they can keep winning over the next few weeks, like I said, the Reds and the Padres and the Rays are the only teams that are playoff teams over the next couple weeks. You have the Diamondbacks, like Frank said, for 7 games. Washington for 3. Miami for 3. And that means you have 3 straight series against losing teams. And the only winning teams you play over the next 2 weeks are Cincinnati, San Diego, and Tampa for 2 games, by the way, for Tampa at home. So I think the Phillies can take advantage of this and really pick up steam like they did at the beginning of the month. Make sure the Mets never get back into it and keep the Braves at bay. So when they hit September, when things get interesting, you're in a position to win the division. I think they still can. According to, they talk about it in the Sports Center. According to MLB Fangraphs Analytics, the Phillies are the favorite to win the National League East right now. So if they can continue to win in August and come out of August with only, there's a possibility because of the way the month is going to play out. Because right now the Phillies only have, 2 losses in the entire month of August, right? They can walk out of August with a total of 5 losses in the entire month. 5 or 6 losses in an entire month. If they can do that, the NL East is definitely theirs to lose. I think it's possible. I can't promise you that, but I do think it's possible. And when the Phillies are winning, it's always a fun thing to talk about. It's always a fun thing the day in and day out with a winning Phillies baseball team. And you know what? I forgot to ask Frank Klose, but I'll have to ask you about this next time I talk to him. You know, if Wheeler is still a candidate for the Cy Young and Harper is still a potential candidate for MVP by the end of the month, that is even more intrigue to the rest of the season, because you have Wheeler starting on Friday, and then he starts again next Thursday against the Reds, against the Diamondbacks. I'm assuming, I think if I project it out right, he'll pitch one of the games versus Tampa, and then he'll pitch again against the Nationals, and then he'll pitch in the Milwaukee series. If he keeps on the hot streak that he is, that doesn't just mean that he's helping a team win the division, but he definitely has got to be a favorite for the Cy Young. And think about it. There hasn't been a ton of Phillies who have won Cy Young awards in the last 30 years, let alone be candidates for it. So it's fun time. I'm excited. Not excited for Eagles football tonight because I love football. Anyone who knows me knows football is my passion. Okay. Football, MMA, they're my two passion sports. You know, I love NFL college football every weekend. I watch UFC every weekend. I watch PFL MMA every time they have an event like they do this weekend. You know, I'm invested in those things. But baseball, there's something about a winning Phillies team that just gets you excited, that gets you a little extra pep in your step, if you know what I mean. Josh Hennig here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Speaking of Eagles football, that is tonight, coming up at 6:30 p.m. Merrill Reese, Mike Quick on the call here on your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN FM. We will have the full Eagles gauntlet of games coming up. Of course, the Steelers tonight, the Patriots next week, and then they wrap it up with the Jets in 2 weeks, all Thursday night games, 6:30 p.m. coverage where it begins right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. We'll wrap up the show coming up the other side. You can send the messages in. We'll get to you guys before we get out of here. You can message the show directly through 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. You can download it for free from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for your iPhone, Android, whatever device you got. You'll also get a message show through YouTube and Twitter. We can get into your guys' conversations on YouTube and Twitter as well. Just watch the show. Get to your messages on the other side as well. Follow 97.3 ESPN on YouTube, Twitter. And, of course, as always, text board is there. 609-403-0973 is the text board. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles open the 2021 preseason tonight, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Link.
Roethlisberger again, look. He is hit, and football is fumbled. The Eagles have it.
Maryland Mike call all the action starting at 7:30 p.m. This is where the Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
Want to go see the Birds play in Vegas against the Raiders this fall? Travel to the game in style with Phillies Sports Trips. Check out their travel packages today at phillysportstrips.com.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Final segment of the show, Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. And as always, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. With all your messages, final segment of the show. I always do this on Game Night. I'll have to get to you guys before we get out of here. Text board 609-403-0973. Direct message the show to the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm going to get to the easiest message first. Okay. The easiest message that came in was somebody message says, is Jalen Hurts playing tonight? Yes. Jalen Hurts is playing tonight. I don't know why you wouldn't think he's playing tonight, but there are multiple reports out there. The expectation is that the Eagles starters will play about 2 series and then they're done for the night. So the expectation, according to people who cover the Eagles, are that there's multiple reports out there that apparently the idea is that Hurts and at least the starters who are healthy, are going to go out there. They're going to play 2 series and then be done for the night. So I don't know if that's the best thing or the best option, but it seems pretty clear that they don't want to put the starters out there for too long tonight. Okay. I think that all right, let me just put this out there. I think tonight you're going to see not the best version of Jalen Hurts in the Eagles offense. I think that tonight you are definitely not going to see the best version of the offense in part because of the fact that There's no Devonta Smith. We don't expect either of the starting guards to play tonight. The expectation is that this will be the first time there's going to be any hitting or contact for these guys. There's no tackling in camp. So I don't think the offense will be bad tonight, but I don't think you're going to see the best version of the offense tonight. I think that preseason game 2, you're going to see a lot better version than in preseason game 1. That's my opinion. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Coverage of Eagles football begins coming up at 6:30 p.m. tonight on the Eagles Radio Network. Your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. We will have a little more of a preview with Adam Caplan, NFL Insider. If you missed my conversation with him in the 4 o'clock hour, we will run it back for you coming up at 6 p.m. Leading you into the Eagles game tonight. We'll dig more into who's in, who's out for tonight's game. Over on the YouTube channel, watching at 973 ESPN on YouTube, Julian says about the Phillies. What happens in the offseason if the Phillies collapse again? This will be the 4th straight year of this. The September schedule is a joke also. For those who don't know, the September schedule for the Phillies runs like this. You have the Marlins, then Milwaukee Brewers. Then you have the Rockies, the Cubs, at the Mets, home against the Orioles, 4 games home against Pittsburgh, and then you finish out the year at Atlanta, at Miami. So you end the season on the road. So a bit of a wonky schedule to end the year. Here's the thing, Julian. I think that the problem with the Phillies is if they collapse again, then Dombrowski's going to make some drastic moves. Remember, they brought in Dombrowski for 2 reasons to be the president of baseball operations. One, because he has a history of winning, okay? He won the World Series with the Marlins. He rebuilt the Tigers, got them to the World Series. He took over the Red Sox, won the World Series with them. So he has a history of coming into every organization and getting them to the promised land. That's what he does. But the second reason they brought him in is because they needed an outside set of eyes. Because when they brought in Andy McPhail and Matt Klentak, the idea was that they were bringing in some new blood to the organization. They were bringing in some people who did not have direct ties to the organization in any capacity, whether it's executives, scouts, former players, whatever. And it didn't work out. The Klentak-McPhail years completely failed the farm system. They completely failed in the draft. They completely failed on multiple fronts. It just became a train wreck. So you're bringing in a guy who does not have ties to the Klentak-McPhail regime. You're bringing in a guy who's a completely different set of eyes, someone who has a complete long history in baseball, and you brought in Sam Fold as a GM, a guy who as a player played for 2 organizations that were very well known for maximizing a talent in their organizations when he played for them. Speaking of teams like the Tampa Bay Rays. So I think that if you have another collapse, it gives Dave Dombrowski, forgot his name for a second there, a reason to basically hit the reset button. Because realistically, you can look at a bunch of players in this roster and say, listen, you're part of the reason that we didn't get where we wanted to go. And that includes Rhys Hoskins, Odubel Herrera, Andrew McCutchen, Gene Segura, Didi Gregorius. There's a lot of guys in this roster that either going to be free agents next year or who have contracts that can be traded. All right. You're not stuck with this roster. All right. This isn't the Philadelphia 76ers who have tied their hands in many ways financially. So that's what happens if they collapse again, Julian. They hit the reset button with a bunch of these players. They move on. They expunge probably 50% or more of the roster. Now, I don't think they're going to collapse this year. I think that the additions of Kyle Gibson is going to help, and Ian Kennedy. I think that Freddie Galvis coming in is going to help improve the defense, cut down the errors. I tend to think that Ian Kennedy is helping to stabilize the bullpen in some ways. I believe that Sir Anthony Dominguez has something to contribute still as a major league pitcher. He'll be up in late August, early September. And I think the Phillies are going to be competitive down the stretch. I don't think they collapse. I think the Mets are going to choke their way out of this. I think not having Lindor and DeGrom is hurting them immensely. I don't know what Syndergaard's going to look like when he ever does return to the pitching staff. I tend to believe that the Mets are cooked unless something crazy happens. And then the team you got to watch out for is the Braves. And the Braves, their hitting is better than their pitching. And I think that the Braves didn't do enough to address their pitching. They did a lot to address their hitting, but they didn't do a lot to address the pitching. So if the Phillies can get some stable pitching and continue to get good starts from Wheeler and Nola and Gibson, that guarantees you 3 out of every 5 days you have a chance to win. And then you just look at Suarez and hope you can get 4 or 5 good innings out of him every start. I think that you could avoid collapsing for the Phillies. Thanks to everybody who joined the show today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for chiming in on all the platforms. Thanks to Frank Klose, Adam Caplan, Keith Smith, Andy McNamara for joining the show. I'm Josh Hennig. I'll be back tomorrow with you on the Sports Bash, filling for Mike Gill. Have a great night. Go Eagles!
Hey, it's Mike Gill from the Sports Bash. If you're an advertising salesperson, how would you like to sell my show, the Sports Bash, here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media? We're hiring new advertising salespeople to sell the Sports Bash, the #1 sports talk show in all of South Jersey at the #1 media company in South Jersey. Selling the Sports Bash is the job that will take you as far as you want to go. An excellent compensation package awaits you, as does a creative and fun working environment. So join the team on the Sports Bash and Town Square Media. It's truly the most advanced media company in all of South Jersey. Start or build upon your sales career by becoming a member of our team here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media. If you're interested, apply at townsquaremedia.com. Click on careers. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.